senior sister? At this juncture, should she awaken and regain her faculties, given her temperament, one cannot predict what she might do. Ning qian qian pondere tepri. Consulting with Qin Lang on how best to mitigate the plight of her fourth senior sister. Let's not be overly cautious. The enemy is hidden while we stand in the light, and the dangers are plentiful. Qin Lang waved his hand dismissively. After a brief interlude, Ning Qianqian had tended to the wounds of the reincarnation and, before departing, raised her small fist towards Chun Fan, waving it a few times as a warning. Do not act recklessly. If you dare to harm my Qin Lang, beware of the seventh sister's wrath. If you are unafraid of death, come and test it. See whether I and the master sister can handle you. Chapter 340. Madness Unleashed. Ning Qianqian departed, followed closely by Qin Lang. The ever-loyal Shiera Hikari remained silent, but she knew when to step in and when to retreat, never hesitating. Luo Qingyu cast a lingering glance at her junior brother Chen Fan, as if to convey a warning, a final reminder of their shared allegiance, before vanishing from sight. The vast mountain range grew desolate, leaving only Chun Fan and the unconscious reincarnation in its wake, while Luo Qingyu's last position seemed to linger, her visage frozen in that final moment. The cold, warning gaze she had cast upon Chun Fan haunted him, refusing to fade away. Chun Fan lifted his head and let out a roar, seeking to unleash the fury and resentment that had accumulated within him. He struck the nearby tree, a trunk thick enough for two to embrace, with a powerful blow of his hand. With a resounding thud, a crater the size of a bowl formed where his hand had impacted, followed by the crackling sound of splintering wood. The mighty tree, struck by Chun Fan, began to splinter and ultimately crashed to the ground, sending a flurry of withered leaves into the air. Qin Lang, this grudge shall not go unavenged. Chun Fan clenched his teeth, blood seeping from the corners of his mouth, unable to contain the tempestuous rage that surged within him. He looked down at the sleeping face of the fourth senior sister, a warm current of emotion flooding his heart. The so-called master sister is but a mere distraction, and the playful seventh sister is like a fickle reed. Only the fourth senior sister, despite her cold words and indifferent demeanor, harbors genuine concern for him. She risked everything to help him seek vengeance, sustaining grievous injuries in the process. It is truly disheartening. Shameful. He tightly clenched his fists, for the first time feeling a profound inadequacy in his own strength. He must grow stronger. He must avenge the fourth senior sister. He desired to sever Qin Lang's head before the fourth senior sister, to cleanse her of the humiliation she had endured. Gradually, as he beheld the ethereal and icy visage of Luan Hui, Chun Fan felt a ripple of emotion stir within him. He extended his hand, yearning to caress the cheek of the fourth senior sister. Yet, at that moment, Luan Hui's eyes abruptly flung open, and despite her injuries, she forcefully swatted Chun Fan's hand away, weakly admonishing him to leave. Fourth senior sister, you are awake? How do you fare? Are your injuries improving? Chun Fan bore no resentment towards Luan Hui's brusque response. He understood her intentions. She sought to bear all hardships alone, wishing to shield him from worry. In contrast to the first senior sister's resolute demeanor, Luan Hui's cold exterior belied a warm heart, which only deepened Chun Fan's affection for her. What concern is it of yours? Luan Hui shot him a frosty glare, having been awake for some time, but choosing to conceal it. Even as the medicinal salves were applied to her wounds, she refrained from uttering a sound of pain. As the leader of the assassins' ranking, physical torment could not sway her resolve, save for those profound humiliations that pierced her very soul. The memory of Qin Lang's bloodshot eyes ignited a tempest of fury within her. Fourth senior sister, why must you draw such clear lines between us? I am already aware of your feelings for me. Moreover, given the present circumstances, are you truly still concerned about Luo Qingyu? Chun Fan was reluctant to prolong this entanglement, unwilling to let the fourth senior sister bear the weight of their circumstances alone. Whatever challenges lay ahead, he would shoulder them. His reference to Luo Qingyu had shifted from a title of first senior sister to her actual name. A bitter laugh escaped him, as repeated hopes were dashed, leaving only disdain and ire from what he perceived as a shallow-minded woman, one who would forsake the bonds of their sect for the sake of an unworthy fiancé, threatening fellow disciples and chastising her juniors. If Luo Qingyu no longer regarded herself as a first senior sister, then why should they continue to honor her with that title? It was likely that she had already engaged in unspeakable acts with that scoundrel Qin Lang. And as for Ning Qianqian, she appeared as a fickle reed, eagerly playing the role of the lesser woman to the eldest son of the Qin family. It was utterly shocking that such shamelessness could arise within the same sect. Chen Fan's words were laced with contempt. The so-called love turning to hate was but a mere reflection of his feelings. Not to mention how Luo Qingyu had treated him so harshly in front of Qin Lang. The recollection of her and Ning Qianqian's actions filled him with a wave of nausea. How they have sullied my sight, Chen Fan uttered coldly. Luan Hui's beautiful eyes widened in shock, and she raised her hand to strike him across the face, reprimanding him. You dare to silence me. What right do you have to criticize the first senior sister? What right do you have to defame the seventh junior sister? In those years, had it not been for the elder sister's timely rescue, you would have perished during the sect mission at the tender age of 14. If not for the seventh junior sister's generous use of precious medicinal herbs, you would have been rendered a cripple by 16 due to severed meridians. Yet in your ingratitude, you dare to utter such words. Who granted you the audacity? The fury of the reincarnation surged within, causing her heart to race. Fourth junior sister, Yu Chun Fan, stood there foolishly, bewildered by the wrath of the reincarnation. Who could have anticipated that the bonds between the fourth junior sister, Luo Qingyu, and Ning Qianqian ran so deep? You are woefully self-assured. It is time to reassess your misguided notions. Do not presume that your assumptions hold any truth. The reincarnation cast a cold glare at Chen Fan, questioning, how could you know whether I was unwilling to consume that beauty elixir? If it serves a purpose, if it allows for vengeance, I would do anything. Who bestowed upon you the authority to make decisions for me? Gazing at the dazed Chen Fan before her, the reincarnation felt an increasing sense of aversion, especially when Chen Fan uttered slanderous remarks about the elder sister and the junior sister. It sent shivers down her spine. Beneath her, it was indeed a dismal descent. She remained uncertain about the relationship between the elder sister and the junior sister with Qin Lang. However, the enmity between herself and Qin Lang was undeniably profound. Regardless of the circumstances, neither the elder sister, the seventh junior sister, nor herself were in any position for Chen Fan to critique. Qin Lang may be a villain, yet Chen Fan is hardly a paragon of virtue. Fourth junior sister Chen Fan opened her mouth, glancing at the furious reincarnation, wishing to express her indignation, but finding herself at a loss for words. Perhaps it was unwise to speak ill of Luo Qingyu in front of the fourth junior sister. She should have kept her thoughts to herself. In that moment, as she looked at the reincarnation, she was uncertain how to proceed, unsure of how to quell the raging tempest. The atmosphere grew increasingly tense. It was at this juncture that Qin Lang had already departed. Otherwise, witnessing the reincarnation's brazen demeanor would have been quite the spectacle. What arrogance! Just see how tender I am, and that will be enough. Chapter 341. The predicament of the second junior sister. Meanwhile, after advancing for quite some time, Qin Lang and his companions gradually approached a village nestled at the foot of the mountains. A chilling aura permeated the air in the dead of night. The mountains stood eerily silent. Even the call of birds scarcely reached their ears. Something is amiss. The figure of Shiera Hikari darted back, her expression taut with tension. As ahead lay a mass of corpses, evidence of a fierce battle that had transpired. Let us investigate. Luo Qingyu furrowed her brows and followed suit. Shortly thereafter, the group arrived at the site where Shiera Hikari had discovered the bodies. A vast area lay before them. Trees snapped in half, some broken by brute force, others shattered by firearms. The acrid scent of gunpowder still lingered in the air, refusing to dissipate. Good heavens! Are those members of the Arctic Bear Commando? Junzi gasped, staring at the bodies strewn on the ground, some reduced to mere halves. The uniforms were unmistakably those of the Arctic Bear Commando from the other side. This particular team is renowned internationally, standing on par with several elite squads from the United States. The members possess not only exceptional physical prowess, but also remarkable proficiency with firearms, categorizing them among the finest. Any one of them, when dispatched to infiltrate mercenary groups, could ascend the ranks within a mere 2 years. Such commandos, even those who have not received the physical enhancement serums bestowed by Qin Lang, would pose a formidable challenge to confront individually. Yet, amidst these mountains, the casualty toll exceeds 10. Raymond, Peter, and Emmons? Their deaths by a single bullet to the head are nothing short of tragic. Kana Ishihara, amidst this grim scene of corpses, recognized some familiar faces, particularly the esteemed Emmons, whose demise struck her as utterly unbelievable. How could such a figure fall victim to a mere headshot? Do you know this group of foreigners? Qin Lang inquired. Casting a casual glance, his curiosity piqued. Kana nodded and elucidated that these individuals were once among the top 10 on the previous assassins ranking list, having withdrawn from the underground assassination scene years ago. Emmons, in particular, had the capability to claim the title of the top assassin. When I sought vengeance against the Cherry Blossom, I contemplated hiring these elite assassins for a significant sum, but they had either retired or declined. Familiar in visage, but never encountered in person. Competing for the title of the top assassin? After all these years, wouldn't they be far more formidable than the current reincarnation? Qin Lang's eyelids fluttered. The implications were staggering. The present reincarnation boasts a physical score nearing 400. Thus, the past champion of the assassin's list, honed over the years, would surely be extraordinary. How could they so easily become mere collateral and perish here? Even a master of hidden killers, no matter how powerful, could not be that formidable. I'm not well-versed in the true strength of the assassin world. Much of their ranking depends heavily on their assassination techniques. Kana shook her head, expressing uncertainty in judgment. Yet, Ning Qianqian interjected, asserting that this individual would likely falter against the fourth senior sister. While the fourth senior sister might not possess the most admirable character and tends to protect that young rascal Chen Fan, her prowess is beyond reproach. When she emerged from seclusion, she dispatched the so-called top assassin in less than 5 moves. Even if this Emmons had undergone further refinement over the years, he would likely not withstand 10 moves against the fourth senior sister. This is not mere flattery towards the reincarnation, but rather a statement of confidence. Ning Qianqian understood what her sect represented. Though they remain aloof from worldly affairs, each disciple is undeniably incomparable to ordinary assassins. The strength of the reincarnation stands uniquely in the assassin rankings, a distinct echelon. Is the blood-red Mander powerful? Undoubtedly. The top 3 on the assassin list, with a physique surpassing the 100-point threshold, are nearly on par with the first-ranked child of fortune, Yifeng. However, should they encounter reincarnation before obtaining the physique potion, they would merely be fodder, utterly outmatched. The master of hidden assassination indeed lives up to their name, having ruthlessly decimated so many formidable warriors. Junzi, aware of Ning Qianqian and Luo Qingyu's identities, could not help but flatter them from behind. It is said that a flower palanquin is carried by people. Thus, laying a solid foundation now would ensure that neither Luo Qingyu nor Ning Qianqian would dare speak ill of him to the young master in the future. A sense of unease permeated the air. Luo Qingyu's expression turned grave. Ning Qianqian also clenched her teeth, knowing her second senior sister's character. If she were aware of an attack against her, she would undoubtedly confront alone. There was no way she would involve the hidden assassins. Yet among the corpses, several bore the tattoos of the hidden assassination, leading me to suspect that second senior sister must have received some false intelligence, luring her here only to fall into an ambush. Moreover, the bodies of the hidden assassins had not been concealed, indicating that second senior sister remained at a disadvantage. Otherwise, she would not allow her own to be left exposed in the wilderness. She felt a surge of anxiety. Just because she was at odds with the fourth senior sister did not mean she was at odds with the second senior sister. In the past, the second senior sister had always protected her. Now, upon learning of her perilous situation, she clenched her small fists. Those scoundrels, should she encounter them, would not escape without experiencing a couple of pounds of soft bone powder. Senior sister, do not delay. Go save her. With that, she set off towards the distant village. Suddenly, at that moment, an abrupt cough echoed, causing everyone to halt in their tracks, their gazes meeting as they confirmed it was not one another. They began to search the surroundings. Don't look for me, I'm right here. Amidst the pile of corpses, a half-smashed head emerged, shaking off the remnants of death before standing upright. He wiped the blood from his face with his sleeve and dusted himself off. With a staggering gait, he rushed towards Junzi, throwing himself onto him like a koala, exclaiming, "Junzi, you nearly scare me to death just now." Those despicable Cherry Blossom Janine were all a bunch of fools. They strutted around, looking down on others, thinking they were so impressive, yet when they encountered an outsider, they fell apart in no time. If it weren't for my quick thinking, hiding among the corpses, I would have been dead by now, and I would never see you again. Chen Erden, is that really you? How did you end up here? Junzi, recognizing him as one of the snipers they had dispatched, could not help but be taken aback. Chapter 342, A Narrow Escape. Chen Erden, what on earth happened? Junzi forcefully pulled the hanging Chen Erden down from his body. This old fellow, whose son could be out running errands, was behaving like a child, surrounded by stunning beauties. The young master, as a bodyguard, should not be too shabby himself. Accompanying a couple of female streamers or hall managers was hardly excessive. Was it? There is nothing of substance. It is all brutish men, and their behavior grows increasingly familiar by the day. He suspects that friendship may be deteriorating. Or perhaps these individuals seek to ascend through nefarious means. Ahem. When facing Junzi, Chun Erden can act nonchalantly, yet the moment he meets Qin Lang's gaze, he withers. Swallowing hard and explaining in a rather disheartened manner that just moments ago, that Sakura Jonin had dragged him off to find a vantage point. Yet midway, they encountered an enemy, and he was left behind as the Jonin fled for his life. Fortunately, the foreigner recognized who was the greater threat between him and the Jonin. Otherwise, he would have met his demise long ago. Anger brewed within him, lending his words a palpable hostility. Ishihara Kanna frowned, asserting that it was impossible. All the Jonin of the Koga clan obeyed her orders. Even if their loyalty were in question, their instinct for self-preservation would not allow them to abandon him in flight. Unless, of course, they faced an insurmountable foe. "It's this guy," Chun Erden exclaimed, pointing at the corpse of Emmons, who had been shot in the head. This very person stated with his own lips that my foreign language skills had passed the highest level, and he mumbled that the Sakura Jonin had been eliminated. Had I not concealed myself so effectively, my fate would remain uncertain. Emmons? Ishihara Kanna gazed at the solitary body of Emmons, coming to the realization that he had not perished in the battle against the Lord of Hidden Assassins. If the Sakura Jonin had encountered Emmons, it was easy to understand. Jonin are the apex within the Darkblade, and they would undoubtedly recognize someone they once considered hiring. Emmons' visage was no secret in the assassin world. His uncanny disguise techniques and formidable strength were enough to instill fear in those who sought his life. Yet, Ishihara Kanna never imagined that such a top-tier assassin, who nearly claimed the title of the foremost killer, would meet his end here, likely at the hands of a mere sniper from the Dragon Nation. Ishihara Kanna scrutinized Chun Erden with intensity. "Do not tell me that this bullet hole was made by you?" Junzi's lips twitched. "Who else could it be? I may not be a match for these brutes in a brawl, but when it comes to firearms..." Chun Erden's spirits soared. He boasted that even with closed eyes, he could deliver a headshot. Listening to the account of the Lord of Darkblade, Chun Erden realized he had fortuitously eliminated an undeniable powerhouse, filling him with pride. However, when his triumphant gaze met Qin Lang's, he wilted once more, clearing his throat awkwardly. "Young Master Qin, I assure you, I did not feign death intentionally. I was merely frightened that there might still be enemies nearby, wanting to outsmart them. Otherwise, if I reveal myself in front of those foes, I would be nothing but a helpless chicken." He gestured towards the southern direction of the village, stating that he had lain there for quite some time, observing as several individuals passed by, all heading that way. The Lord of Hidden Assassins should also be in that direction. After speaking, he began to smear the blood from the corpse onto himself, fresh and viscous, diving once more into the pile of bodies. One must admit that Chun Erden possesses a rather robust physique. Clad in foreign attire, with half of his head buried in the earth and the other half in flesh, he seamlessly blends into his environment. Even Qin Lang, who arrived here briefly, could not discern his presence. Of course, this is contingent upon Chun Erden harboring no murderous intent towards him, thus avoiding any sense of danger. "Qin Shao, you all should leave quickly. I will remain here to lie in ambush. This place is a thoroughfare. Several groups have already passed through, making it a critical point. I'll wait and see if any stragglers appear, and perhaps eliminate one or two later." Chun Erden had completely embraced his role as a lurking specter. He would not accompany Qin Shao, for that would render him a mere hindrance, incapable of offering any assistance. Junzi, filled with frustration, exclaimed, "What if you're discovered while crouching here? If you can't be of help, then just get lost. Encountering one hapless soul might be a stroke of luck. But you expect a second? Do you think it's that easy to take someone down? You dare not even reveal yourself. What if the enemy faces you and spots you raising your weapon? Once exposed, you're as good as dead." Junzi scolded fiercely. For although Chun Erden was a bit foolish, he was nonetheless his brother. Without the protection of the Sakura shinobi in such a perilous location, it would be tantamount to courting death. Knowing his brother could perish, how could he remain indifferent? Yet, Chun Erden stubbornly insisted, "If I wish to leave, I shall. The young master hasn't spoken a word, so what right do you have to nag? I receive a substantial salary and myriad benefits. Years ago, when I worked as a bodyguard, I had my own troubles. Just a month ago, my son was diagnosed with a brain tumor. Were it not for the young master's bonus, I would have been left destitute. If I cannot assist in this matter, I might as well perish. Get lost. Don't bother me. If the enemy discovers us, it'll be your fault for making me angry. Qin Lang furrowed his brow and turned to Junzi. Why Haven T? I heard about this. Junzi gritted his teeth. I didn't know either. Erden only just mentioned it. Damn. He shot a glare at the seemingly lifeless Chun Erden, clenching his fists. Young master, let us leave. This fellow is as stubborn as a mule and cannot be persuaded. Unless absolutely necessary, do not expose yourself. Staying here, as long as we do not act recklessly, may be safer than you leaving alone. Qin Lang advised before heading in the direction Chun Erden had indicated. Luo Qingyu cast a deep glance at Chun Erden before turning to gaze at Qin Lang's retreating figure, her heart a tumult of emotions. Is this what they call a dandy of Yinjing? Why does he exude such a compelling charisma that others would lay down their lives for him? In contrast, her little junior brother, blinded by hatred, seemed so vastly inferior. Ning Qianqian was also stirred by Chun Erden's words, determined to survive. Since you are so loyal to my Qin Lang, you are equally loyal to me, Ning Qianqian. As the little medical immortal, I cannot allow my trusted confidant to be left with regrets. Rest assured, as long as I can return alive, not only can I mend your shattered self, but if you desire even the most outlandish of things, I shall ensure the rejection of any adverse reactions. A group of us, in high spirits, prepared to depart. However, just a mere dozen steps away, we were interrupted by the timid voice of Chun Erden. Miss Ning, if you truly heal me as you claim, will any future child born be considered mine, or that of donkey? Chapter 343. The Hidden Attributes of the God of Death. As Junzi stumbled slightly, nearly twisting his ankle, he muttered incessantly, cursing under his breath. Once steadied, he quickened his pace, following the direction indicated by Chun Erden. Within half an hour, the sounds of fierce combat reached our ears. In a relatively open area, devoid of ample cover, several yellow-skinned members of the Hidden Kill were being overwhelmed by a dozen foreign fighters, retreating in disarray. The ground was strewn with the lifeless bodies of 5 or 6 Hidden Kill members, while the surviving ones bore grievous wounds, reaching the end of their strength. Throughout the journey, Luo Qingyu had spoken little, but upon seeing the enemy, she remained silent, charging forth. Her white dress billowed as she leapt into the fray, her form as ethereal as a blooming snow lotus, landing at the heart of the battlefield. Lacking any weapon, she approached a burly blond man, and with a gentle clap of her palm, it seemed to strike the very air itself. Yet it echoed, as if it had collided with him. With a resounding thud, the man was sent hurtling backward like a kite severed from its string, blood spewing from his mouth as his chest caved in, ribs shattered, and his internal organs likely obliterated. He fell lifeless before he even touched the ground. Those who dare to offend my sect shall face retribution. Luo Qingyu, devoid of mirth, boldly infiltrated the encirclement of the foreign warriors. A towering figure, nearly 2 meters tall, clad in tight attire and muscle-bound like a coiled dragon, roared as he charged, brandishing a trident. Luo Qingyu remained unperturbed, advancing rather than retreating. With an arm as agile as a serpent, she struck at the inner side of his wrist, producing a sharp crack. The robust man's wrist shattered under the force, causing the trident to fall from his grasp. In a swift motion, Luo Qingyu seized the trident and hurled it to the right. With a sickening thud, the trident pierced a dark-haired man, embedding itself into a sturdy tree behind him. Clutching a pistol, the dark-haired man never fathomed that this woman could perceive his slightest movement amidst the chaos of Avani's assault. The most terrifying aspect was that the trident had punctured a gaping hole through his neck. What immense force was required to achieve such a feat? Not a sound escaped his lips, only the agonizing rasps of a torn throat. Please do not kill me. Avani, a Caucasian, was speaking in broken Dragonese while gazing at Luo Qingyu, already filled with dread. The sudden appearance of this woman was overwhelming. Her strength was formidable and terrifying, likely surpassing even the leader of their organization. Desperate to avoid death, he clutched his shattered wrist and retreated frantically. Standing firm, Luo Qingyu narrowed her beautiful eyes, vowing to eliminate anyone who dared to challenge her sect. From beneath her long dress, her slender, straight leg kicked a small stone at her feet, and with a swift motion, she unleashed a powerful leg whip. Whoosh! The stone accelerated abruptly, accompanied by a piercing whistle, striking Avani, who had fled several meters away, piercing the back of his head. His robust body fell forward, lifeless on the spot. The task of dispatching these foes appeared intricate. It transpired within the span of 3 breaths. Luo Qingyu's speed was so astonishing that her adversaries could scarcely comprehend it. In less than 2 minutes, over 90% of the remaining dozen or so individuals perished, leaving only one black man, fluent in Dragonese, who knelt on the ground, apologizing profusely. Luo Qingyu refrained from delivering the final blow and instead turned her attention to the 7 or 8 severely wounded members of the Hidden Kill organization. She tossed them several healing elixirs, which could expedite the recovery of their wounds, urging them to consume them. Where's Chana now? Have you parted ways with her? The members of Hidden Kill, holding the distributed elixirs, exchanged bewildered glances. Their minds were clouded with confusion. They were unsure whether this newcomer was friend or foe, or perhaps orchestrating an elaborate ruse to extract information about their leader. Who are you? Why do you wish to save us? And what is your connection to the leader? How do you know her name? I am her senior sister. Luo Qingyu replied solemnly. We have come to rescue our second senior sister. Do not be so cautious, casting doubts upon everything. Do you think I would harm her? Ning Qianqian rushed over from the side, pointing to herself. It's me. Do you recognize me now? Miss Qianqian, are you truly here to save our leader? The remaining members of Hidden Kill, who had previously known Ning Qianqian, were astonished. She had once saved Su Chan's life and given their long acquaintance. Her presence was not unexpected. Since you are familiar with Miss Qianqian, then you cannot be enemies. Miss Qianqian, the leader's fate remains uncertain. To divert the strong enemies, she single-handedly led them away. One Hidden Kill member pointed in the direction of the distance, anguish etched upon his face. We had intended to deal with these minor adversaries, never anticipating that the reinforcements who arrived would be so formidable, far beyond our capabilities. All renowned experts, celebrated internationally. Each one alone could instill fear in the hearts of those in the underworld. It is entirely natural that you are not their match. Ishihara Kanami cast a casual glance at the numerous corpses strewn about, yet her gaze remained warily fixed on Luo Qingyu. Who exactly is this woman? Why is she so powerful? The manner in which those recently slain by her perished was so simplistic that it might lead one to mistakenly perceive them as feeble. However, once their origins are revealed, one can ascertain the formidable strength of these victims. Indeed, several among them possessed capabilities that rivaled those of Emmons. They were all paragons in their respective fields, akin to rare phoenix feathers. How could it be that such individuals were incapable of serving as the primary force against the master of the hidden assassins? What kind of formidable adversaries were pursuing the master of the hidden assassins? Find a place to conceal yourselves, Ning Qianqian advised, her gaze scanning the injuries of the hidden assassins members. After providing some basic treatment, she effectively marked the conclusion for this group. Surviving this battle was already a considerable feat, let alone regaining their former prowess. Young master, Miss Luo, it appears we are truly on the brink of a fierce confrontation. Among those encircling the master of the hidden assassins are high-ranking officials from several extraordinary organizations. Junzi did not squander the opportunity to utilize the tongue that Luo Qingyu had deliberately left behind for interrogation, uncovering the origins of this formidable foe. Notably, the 4 Guardians of Shadow Alliance had all arrived, along with a senior tribunal from the Western Demon Extermination Society. This was merely what Lao He was aware of. The extent of unknowns remained uncertain. Upon receiving credible intelligence, Junzi, who had always held a bias against Lao He, promptly rewarded him with 3 bullets. The Shadow Alliance? The Western Demon Extermination Society? Qin Lang furrowed his brow, delving into contemplation. These 2 organizations seemed to have little significance within Chun Fan's narrative. He had no recollection of them. How could they suddenly emerge? In the preceding storylines, neither of these major organizations had made an appearance. What transpired? Had the narrative become disordered? Or had organizations yet to be revealed in the script begun to surface? Ishihara Kana felt a twinge of anxiety. The hidden assassins had previously eradicated numerous organizational strongholds in Kolan, including the complete annihilation of both the Western Demon Extermination Society and the Shadow Alliance. These 2 organizations boasted a notorious reputation on the international stage. They were certainly not entities that the hidden assassins or our Darkblade could afford to offend. It was unexpected that, in their campaign against the hidden assassins, the Demon Extermination Society and the Shadow Alliance would dispatch such high-ranking combatants. The master of the hidden assassins had engaged in notably ruthless acts, with the obliteration of these 2 powerful organizations executed with the ferocity of a thunderbolt, vanishing in an instant without a whisper of news. Had it not been for the dominance of the hidden assassins within the organization in Kolan, the true culprits behind the downfall of these 2 organizations would likely remain undiscovered to this day. At that time, only the hidden assassins possessed such strength and confidence. After being questioned by these 2 organizations, They dared to openly acknowledge the situation and pinpoint the fatal flaw, asserting that the tendrils of the Shadow Alliance and the Western Demon Extermination Society had already reached into the territory of Longwa, thus necessitating their extermination. Do you think my sect lacks the means to retaliate? Luo Qingyu's demeanor became restrained, her breath uneven, truly incensed. Underestimate my second senior sister at your peril. I shall ensure this lot pays dearly. Ning Qianqian clenched her small fist tightly. Meanwhile, on the main battlefield between the Shadow Alliance and the Western Demon Extermination Society, approximately 100 renowned warriors gathered, each holding a prestigious reputation internationally. Among them, for individuals clad in black robes adorned with enigmatic patterns stood ominously at the corners, representing the most formidable guardians of the Shadow Alliance. They had once single-handedly annihilated a top-tier mercenary group consisting of over 1,000 members. Additionally, an elderly man with graying hair, leaning on a cane, towered above the rest, his presence commanding an aura that deterred anyone from approaching him. This distinguished figure was none other than the senior judge of the Western Demon Extermination Society. His status and strength surpassed even the 4 guardians of the Shadow Alliance, placing him a full tier above them. God of Killing, should you choose to join the Shadow Alliance, I assure you that we will elevate you to the upper echelons of our guardians. Otherwise, the destruction of our base in Kellen will be deemed a capital offense, and your demise will be inevitable. Ha ha ha. The Shadow Alliance speaks with such audacity. We, the Western Demon Extermination Society, have yet to voice our opinions, and you dare to presume you can protect the God of Killing. If our society disagrees, do you think you can simply leave with your men? God of Killing, at your age, it is time to pass the mantle. Should you opt to join the Western Demon Extermination Society, I promise you will ascend to the position of senior judge within 3 years, an exalted existence far superior to your current isolated status. The senior judge of the Demon Extermination Society exhibited no fear of the 4 guardians of the Shadow Alliance. Why do the senior judge of the Demon Extermination Society and the 4 guardians of the Shadow Alliance speak the dragon tongue so fluently? Could they be foreigners disguised as dragon nationals? Or perhaps they studied in the Dragon Kingdom? Nonsense. These individuals are on the blacklist prohibited from entering the Dragon Kingdom. It is impossible for them to be dragon nationals in disguise. Each of these formidable warriors is an absolute prodigy, a rarity akin to phoenix feathers and unicorn horns. It is unlikely that any language, including those from other nations, poses a challenge to such exceptional beings. Among the encircling warriors, there were masters who had fled from the Dragon Kingdom. However, their abilities were too feeble, relegating them to the periphery, merely squawking in frustration. God of Killing, you are a powerful being, and your subordinate, the Hidden Kill, is an organization of considerable strength. You are an astute individual and should recognize how unfavorable the current situation is for you. If you continue to resist obstinately, not only will you face destruction, but all the efforts of Hidden Kill will be consumed in the flames of ruin. A guardian of the Shadow Alliance coldly threatened, then added, should you choose to ally with us, the Western Demon Extermination Society will have no authority to detain you. The benefits they offered could not compare to those of the senior judge and lack persuasive power. Yet, it was imperative to make an effort. For the God of Killing's strength was overwhelming, and despite the relentless pursuit of so many, they had only managed to contain him without delivering a fatal blow. Such a formidable figure, upon joining any organization, would undoubtedly yield immense benefits, not to mention the backing of a powerful entity like Hidden Kill. Surrounded by a multitude of formidable adversaries, a young maiden stood resolute at the center. Barely in her early 20s, she bore an unassuming demeanor, reminiscent of a reclusive homebody. Her hair fell in disarray, draped in an ample black robe that concealed her graceful silhouette. Long, tangled bangs obscured much of her visage, revealing only her pair of dark, penetrating eyes fixed intently upon the powerful figures before her. Words eluded her, save for a hoarse sound emanating from her throat, the sole utterance being a singular word: kill. Having restrained herself for an eternity, the mistress of hidden slaughter could articulate nothing but this word, embodying her innermost thoughts. In the face of insurmountable foes, fear was absent. She did not seek to incite discord among them. Surprisingly, when confronting such a multitude of enemies, including the High Judge and the 4 guardians, a trace of exhilaration tinged her voice as she uttered her intent. With a swift motion, she charged forward. Her target unmistakably the High Judge of the Western Demon Extermination Society. What madness is this? Instead of fleeing, she advances towards the High Judge. Her eyes, obscured by tangled bangs, conveyed not fear, but an unsettling thrill. Is this a deity of slaughter? No, she is undeniably a bloodthirsty maniac. Stop her. Do not let her approach the High Judge. Among the encircling crowd, several members of the Western Demon Extermination Society stood resolute. To them, the High Judge was a figure of divine authority, deserving of utmost reverence. It was inconceivable to allow the embodiment of slaughter to confront their commander. Instantly, 4 or 5 formidable members took their positions to intercept her path. Each of them was renowned in their own right. Yet here they stood as mere pawns before the High Judge. Amidst the gathering of fierce opponents, the mistress of hidden slaughter remained undaunted, seemingly dismissing the so-called strength of the Demon Extermination Society. Her sole focus had always been the silver-haired High Judge. How dare a mere leader of this insignificant organization show disrespect towards the High Judge? To challenge him, they must first contend with us, armed with black titanium alloy blades. The blocking members radiated lethal intent, their weapons glinting under the moonlight like ominous stars. They formed an insurmountable barrier, dissuading any would-be challengers. Yet, they were confronted by Su Chan, the mistress of hidden slaughter. Her momentum showed no signs of waning. She wielded her long sword with nonchalance, sweeping it forward effortlessly. In an instant, she surpassed the barrier formed by the members of the Demon Extermination Society. As she soared above their heads, a series of crisp, shattering sounds echoed. The gleaming titanium blades, struck at their midpoints, split cleanly in two, their severed edges perfectly smooth. Moreover, the formidable demon-slaying warriors, wielding their titanium alloy blades, succumbed one by one, their bodies cleaved in twain, with viscera spilling forth, saturating the air with a pungent, metallic odor of blood. Before the assailants could fully comprehend the horror, Su Chan had already approached the esteemed chief judge of the Demon-Slaying Society. With a flick of her long sword, she lunged directly at the vulnerable area of his neck. Clang! The chief judge raised his staff, its bat-headed top clashing against the sword, producing a cacophony of metal on metal. Unmoved, he gazed at the fallen warriors of the Demon-Slaying Society, a subtle smile gracing his lips. Truly, a harbinger of death. His prowess was undeniable. The few lives she had extinguished were among the rare elite of his organization. Their absence would indeed leave a void that even the Demon-Slaying Society could not ignore. Thus, the only recourse was for her to join their ranks to fill this gap. Huh! Su Chan smiled, her eyes, concealed beneath her long bangs, igniting with a glint of murderous intent as she delivered a swift kick towards the chief judge. The chief judge, swift and astute, did not underestimate her, using his staff to parry. Boom! The impact was tremendous, akin to being struck by a small truck at full speed. Even the chief judge staggered several steps sideways before regaining his balance. The smile faded from his face, his murky eyes growing serious as he scrutinized Su Chan's powerful right leg, furrowing his brow. Could this assassin truly be mad? His staff, crafted from exquisite gold, possessed unparalleled strength and hardness, yet he now found it somewhat unwieldy. One could only imagine the sheer force behind Su Chan's kick. Could her leg bones withstand such power? Did she care for her own safety in the heat of battle? What are you waiting for? The harbinger of death is already spiraling into madness. She will not join any organization. Do you expect me to face the enemy alone? The chief judge glared at the 4 guardians of the Shadow Alliance, his voice icy. While he did not fear the harbinger of death, there was no need to engage in a reckless confrontation with a lunatic determined to die. Even if victorious, he could not emerge unscathed. With the advantage of numbers, why squander his own strength? Kill, annihilate the harbinger of death. Henceforth we, Kalan, shall reign supreme. The 4 guardians exuded an aura of lethal intent, their voices booming like thunder, rallying the assailants to charge forth. Yet they showed no inclination to take the lead themselves. The sheer number of assailants was overwhelming, a sea of bodies, and anyone present possessed formidable strength. Despite Su Chan's remarkable prowess as she charged towards the chief judge, she could not withstand the enemy's deliberate evasion, compounded by the relentless tide of foes pressing forward, forcing her into a brutal melee. In this vast expanse, blood splattered continuously. Bodies flew through the air, and dismembered limbs lay scattered everywhere. Just moments ago, the burly man had bellowed threats to dismember Su Chan, but in the blink of an eye, his head, torso, and legs lay separated, one on the ground, the other caught in the branches of a tree. There were also lecherous individuals who coveted Su Chan's status, attempting to seize her through despicable means. However, in the next instant, Their arms were reduced to nothing but sinew and bone beneath Su Chan's masterful swordplay, leaving behind only stark white remnants. Fearful onlookers recoiled, yet found themselves standing in Su Chan's path. Closing their eyes, they resigned themselves to their fate, never to awaken again. The air was thick with a murderous intent that painted the surroundings in hues of crimson, as if the heavens themselves had opened to rain blood. Su Chan's dark robe deepened in its allure, while her disheveled hair became soaked, droplets of blood cascading from its roots. The ground was littered with corpses. Out of the hundreds that had surrounded her, fewer than 20 remained, the rest rendered silent and lifeless. In the face of such overwhelming destruction, even in death, one could find solace in a smile. Truly, she was a goddess of death, her aura instilling dread in all who beheld her. Among the remaining assailants stood the 4 guardians and a high-ranking judge, observing from a distance with cold indifference as Su Chan knelt, weakened. Their lack of injury did not imply that Su Chan emerged unscathed. The fierce battle had nearly drained her of all strength, and she bore injuries that were far from negligible. Most treacherous were the high-ranking judge and the 4 guardians, who had seized upon her moment of vulnerability to launch multiple surprise attacks. She bore several critical wounds, including a fractured right leg, all thanks to their underhanded tactics. "D!" cried one surviving member of the Demon Slayers, seizing the opportunity to attack Su Chan, who was barely clinging to life. Armed with a titanium alloy blade that shimmered ominously, he charged forth, seemingly poised to sever her head from her body. At that moment, a dull thud echoed as the assailant stumbled, collapsing just shy of Su Chan, his head exploding like a ripe watermelon. The few remaining foes nearby recoiled in haste, but despite their best efforts, 2 were not quick enough, their paths tragically overlapping with those of their fallen comrades. Once more, heads were shattered. Sniper, the guardian of the Shadow Alliance, stomped in fury, rushing toward the source of the faint sound, leaping forward like a tiger ready to pounce. With a rush of wind, one of the guardians of the Shadow Alliance looked up to see a man in black hurtling toward him from afar, defying the laws of physics. He had no leverage to alter his trajectory and could only throw his fists in a desperate attempt to counterattack. "You can perish," Qin Lang remarked with a calm smile, unleashing a punch that obliterated the guardian's arms and struck his chest with devastating force, collapsing his ribcage. Yet this was not the end. Qin Lang seized the guardian's head, driving it downward with relentless force. Thud! Dust swirled as the figure of the Shadow Alliance guardian crashed to the ground, trembling violently. His head was forcefully pressed into the earth, unable to rise. Qin Lang, underlings in tow, ruthlessly battered the guardian, lifting his gaze towards the senior judge, grinning widely to reveal his porcelain-white teeth. "At your age, still playing this game of encirclement? How about switching organizations? I, the Sea Emperor Gang, am ready to engage." Chapter 345, A Backup Plan, The Inevitable Demise of the Second Sister Whoosh. Whoosh, whoosh. Several figures hastened into view. Lo Qingyu and her companions had arrived. Ning Qianqian crouched before Su Chan, observing her critically wounded state, particularly the right leg, where bones were visibly protruding. Gritting her silver teeth, she clenched her small fists. "Second sister, I swear to dismember those bastards." Su Chan responded calmly, lowering herself to the ground, casting a glance at Lo Qingyu, as if to greet her. Then shifting her gaze to her severed right leg. Among her various injuries, this was the true culprit that rendered her immobile. Otherwise, she would have fought on despite a pierced chest, determined to take a few adversaries down with her. "Second sister, endure a moment. I will help realign your bone." Even Ning Qianqian, accustomed to bloodshed, shuddered at the sight of her sister's grievous wounds. The leg bone was shattered, only half of the flesh still attached. Had second sister not protected that leg, it would have surely been severed by now. The tattered black robe that surrounded her was too much for Ning Qianqian to bear, her eyes reddening with emotion. "It hurts." Ning Qianqian offered a piece of white gauze, but Su Chan merely glanced at it, remaining silent as she fixated on her mangled leg. Thud! Ning Qianqian, understanding her sister's stoic nature, could not bear to watch her endure such agony. She delivered a swift chop to Su Chan's neck, producing a dull thud. Thud, thud, thud. 3 more strikes followed. "Second sister, why aren't you playing by the rules? You should be unconscious by now," Ning Qianqian complained. Su Chan's eyes, partially concealed by her long bangs, held a flicker of confusion as she blinked, then silently fixed her gaze back on Ning Qianqian. Only upon hearing her words did she obediently close her eyes. Crack! Ning Qianqian, in that moment, had no thought for sarcasm. Grasping the elongated remnants of Su Chan's right leg, she applied pressure, producing a chilling sound of bones grinding, while Su Chan remained silent, though her trembling shoulders betrayed her inner torment. You all deserve to die. Lo Qingyu pursed her lips, her brow furrowed in a fierce expression. Alone, she charged forward, wielding the second sister's sword, heading straight for the three guardians and the senior judge. With a single glance, she discerned the most formidable among them. Misro, be careful. With a sudden exclamation, Junzi realized that soon they might be facing their own young mistress, and it was unthinkable to allow her to venture alone into the enemy's ranks. Even if he was no match for those purported guardians and high judges, he would never permit anyone else to intervene. With a fierce roar, Junzi charged towards the remaining strong fighters, followed closely by Shirakana. Here, she possessed the weakest abilities and could not engage in battles of Luo Qingyu's caliber. Her only contribution would be to assist Junzi in providing cover. On the battlefield, Luo Qingyu floated like a celestial being, wielding her sword with grace, her long skirt billowing enchantingly. With her singular strength, she pressed the three guardians and one high judge into retreat, drawing ever closer to the distant thicket. Qinlang cast a casual glance, crushing the nearly defeated Shadow Alliance guardian beneath his foot, and cautioned, "Do not enter the forest." Although Luo Qingyu was formidable, relying solely on her to contend with the high judge and three guardians was precarious. The high judge, with his head of gray hair, and each of the three Shadow Alliance guardians, were formidable in their own right, possessing physical prowess exceeding 300, some nearing 400. The high judge likely matched Luo Qingyu in strength. The primary reason for their retreat was the fear of the snipers lurking nearby. Should they enter the forest, Luo Qingyu would face considerable suppression. Already cautious by nature, Luo Qingyu heeded Qinlang's warning and chose not to take needless risks, instead maneuvering around the high judge and the three guardians in the open area. With a powerful kick, Luo Qingyu struck one guardian squarely in the chest, sending him flying over 10 meters, crashing into a tree that required two people to embrace, causing him to spit blood before rejoining the fray. Meanwhile, Junzi, bolstered by prolonged use of physical enhancement potions, had nearly reached a physique of 300, aided by the formidable Shirakana, who surpassed even the elite of the Sakura clan. Yet, the dozen or so strong adversaries present were no trifles. None were weaker than the first chosen son of fate, Yifeng. In this open area, if one were to gauge strength, even the weakest would be on par with Yifeng, with most possessing 1.5 to 2 times his strength, and several exceeding 5.5. As a retreat, it's all Qinglong out there. No, wait, Junzi. Pull back. You're surrounded by Yifeng. Qinlang refused to stand idly by as Junzi faced a futile battle. He shouted to the others nearby, Luinhui, Chunfan, are you merely going to watch? Any grievances can wait until this crisis passes. He sensed the familiar danger, and aside from Luinhui and Chunfan, no one else was present. Were it not for the fear of Luinhui's potential wrath, he would not have left the blood-red mandala at the Dark Blade's headquarters, resulting in the current lack of allies. Suddenly, a striking figure clad in black appeared, swiftly followed by another who emerged not far behind. It is none other than Chun Fan, who has long been trailing the cycle, now appearing from a different position. Clearly, there is some discord between him and the reincarnation, as they avoid eye contact, yet simultaneously cast murderous glares at Qinlang. And you, are you merely spectating from the sidelines? The reincarnation has joined the fray, assisting Junzi in fending off several attacks while questioning Qinlang's role. Have you become complacent after eliminating a Shadow Alliance protector, standing idly by? Chun Fan sneered. Are you afraid? Two foolish imbeciles. Qinlang rolled his eyes, dismissing the provocateurs, thinking it a waste to engage them further. His expression grew serious as he gazed into the dense forest, proclaiming loudly, "What are you all lurking about for? Do you believe you have the upper hand this time? Do not think about locating the sniper. They are well guarded. If you two do not reveal yourselves soon, I shall take matters into my own hands and deal with the minor nuisances." Chapter 346, When in Doubt. Charge ahead. Qinlang's words immediately raised the vigilance of those present. Luo Qingyu, her spirit taut, flicked her long sword, sending a Shadow Alliance protector flying. Casting a glance at Qinlang, are there still enemies? Surely not. With all present, they could be sufficient to dispatch my second senior sister twice over. Is such an overwhelming force really necessary? Ning Qianqian, diligently aiding Su Chan in her recovery, gasped in surprise upon hearing this, quickly voicing her complaints. Qinlang smeated calmly. There are still two hidden quite deeply. Leave them to me. He refrained from elaborating, for to do so would diminish the significance of the favor he sought from this endeavor. In the original narrative, the Lord of Hidden Killers, Su-chan, would not have met her demise at this juncture, nor would she have been so severely injured, let alone find herself in such a dire situation. All of this deviation stems from the altered plot. Ultimately, the greatest variable in Kulan's recent events has been none other than Qin Lang himself. By rallying Kulan's local forces and enlisting the Dark Blade under his banner, he has effectively consolidated nearly 90% of Kulan's organizations and influences. This situation is intolerable for both the Shadow Alliance and the Western Demon Extermination Society, should Kulan become a tightly knit entity. How could these organizations exploit the chaos to their advantage? The so-called encirclement of the Lord of Hidden Killers is merely an appetizer. The majority of those who have arrived are drawn by the still-hidden Sea Emperor Gang behind him, truly worthy of being the Sea Emperor Gang's leader. Even in our deep concealment, you have uncovered our presence. How formidable the youth! In a dense forest, two figures emerged unhurriedly. One wielded a black staff, his entire form enveloped in a dark robe, the style rich with Central European flair, adorned with an emblematic depiction of a malevolent dragon with outstretched wings. Deputy President, you have arrived as well. The three great protectors exclaimed in unison. They were utterly unprepared for the Deputy President's unexpected presence, a piece of intelligence they had not been privy to. Even their own allies were kept in the dark. Another figure was entirely enveloped in resplendent silver armor, radiating a crystalline brilliance beneath the moonlight. In his grasp was a slender, curved saber, which, though it did not touch the ground, caused the surrounding sand and gravel to shatter and collapse under the influence of some uncontrollable energy. What an insatiable appetite the Shadow Alliance possesses. They have even summoned the elite genetic warriors from the beautiful nation. Are they planning to monopolize all of Kulan's interests this time? The esteemed chief judge of the Western Demon Extermination Society possesses keen insight. With just a glance, he discerned the immense energy lurking within that silver-clad warrior, a power only a genetic warrior could wield. The vice president of the Shadow Alliance shook his head with a light chuckle, remarking that, after all, the leader of the Sea Emperor Gang was likely backed by a colossal entity like the Dragon Kingdom. If we venture without a genetic warrior by our side, what if the Dragon Kingdom sets its sights on us? The Shadow Alliance certainly cannot afford to offend the Dragon Kingdom. We are but mayflies attempting to shake a tree. Young master, let us depart. I will cover your retreat. Upon hearing this, Junzi's pupils constricted in shock as he swiftly severed the arm of one assailant, shouting towards Qin Lang, "Something terrible has happened. We thought we were here to rescue the hidden kill master. Yet who could have anticipated the presence of such formidable foes among the attackers? They even seem to have insight into the young master's background. I cannot afford to be careless. If anything were to happen to the young master, my demise would be inevitable. Why the rush? Are not friends arriving from afar?" Qin Lang waved his hand dismissively. Just focus on your own side and refrain from recklessly seeking trouble with others. If these two wish to take your life, I may not be able to save you in time. These two were undoubtedly masters, surpassing even the chief judge of the Western Demon Extermination Society by a considerable margin. It would not be an exaggeration to declare them the strongest adversaries they have encountered thus far. Their physical prowess likely reached an astounding level of 700 or 800. Simply standing there, the aura they exuded was beyond what an ordinary person could withstand. The hidden kill master, Su-chan, gazed at the two powerful figures, her pupils shimmering with excitement. She grasped Ning Qianqian's hand, preventing her from continuing her healing process. Second sister, do not be reckless. Approaching them now, even if you manage to stall one, you may not be able to slay them. Your body is in a shattered state. If you act as you did a year ago, you may very well perish, and there would be no saving you. Ning Qianqian halted the second sister's movements. Allowing her to engage might temporarily hold one back, but should she resort to a self-destructive technique that harms both the enemy and herself, given her current condition, she might not survive the encounter. Calm down. It seems your friend has mistaken us for foes. The vice president of the Shadow Alliance gently waved his hand. Perhaps we could become allies instead. The world is bustling and chaotic, driven by self-interest. We have come here merely to claim a small territory within Kulan, unable to secure even a modest piece of land. According to our intelligence, it appears that your esteemed leader has already seized control of over 90% of Kulan. If you're willing to collaborate with my Shadow Alliance and allocate half of the territory of Kulan for our private management, we could avoid further conflict. It is a straightforward request, is it not? Ultimately, it boils down to the rights of territorial management, which is merely a matter of financial gain, is it not? Had you mentioned this earlier, it would have sufficed. I am not one to lack in monetary resources. Qin Lang gazed at the vice president of the Shadow Alliance with a look of reproach. Was it truly necessary to make such a grand display over such a trivial matter? You could have approached me directly. Your generosity is indeed commendable. The vice president of the Shadow Alliance stared at Qin Lang, momentarily bewildered. What was happening? Was he actually acquiescing? This was not what he had anticipated. Could it be that his intelligence was flawed? Did the Sea Emperor gang have no ties to the Dragon Nation? Since you were so magnanimous, should we not discuss the details further? The vice president smiled, his eyes shaped like inverted triangles, taking on an increasingly sinister appearance. While a detailed discussion could have been possible, I am who I am, and Kolan is Kolan. This place is not my homeland, nor does it fall under my jurisdiction. However, I am one who responds better to cordiality than coercion. While it is acceptable to engage in a pleasant conversation, why bring along an elite warrior from that so-called beautiful nation? Is it a threat? We in the Dragon Nation have an old saying. I wonder if you have heard it? Qin Lang silently activated the first transformation of the 9 turns Celestial Dragon technique. His physical prowess surging to 750, while simultaneously wrapping his arm and fist in armed color hockey. This marked his second serious application of armed color hockey, and he was beginning to find it somewhat familiar. One might say that it was easily manageable given the size and shape of the object being manipulated. He smiled, pressing his foot against the ground and propelling himself forward like a cannonball, exclaiming with arrogance, a friend from afar, though distant, must be vanquished. Chapter 347. Qin Lang injured. Spitting bloodbang. In an instant, Qin Lang was before the elite warrior from the beautiful nation, delivering a punch imbued with darkness. It struck like a boulder colliding, producing a deafening roar. Despite the elite warrior's robust physique and external armor, he was sent flying backward. An advanced genetic warrior? I see no remarkable qualities. Qin Lang smirked, consuming beauty-enhancing pills as if they were free. Once the 9-turn Celestial Dragon technique was activated, it consumed his own flesh, engaging in extensive cellular metabolism at every moment. Should his recovery speed fail to keep pace, it would lead to a depletion of his vitality. Fortunately, Qin Lang's physique had now reached 500, and with the healing properties of the beauty-enhancing pills, he could counteract the damage inflicted by the first transformation. Bang! As soon as the advanced genetic warrior regained his footing, he gritted his teeth, brandishing a metallic curved blade. He leaped forward, covering a distance of several meters in an instant, swinging the blade horizontally toward Qin Lang's neck. Qin Lang deftly dodged with a swift movement. Suddenly, a hapless assailant nearby was enveloped in an unknown energy, his form crumpling like a fragile piece of tofu. As a segment from his shoulder to his head was severed cleanly. Have the warriors of your beautiful nation resorted to blade energy now, to kill from such a distance? Qin Lang clicked his tongue, slightly astonished. On the fair visage of the Gene warrior, a tempest of fury swirled. What chaotic blade energy is this? This is the latest alloy material developed by the Research Institute, wielded with incredible speed to generate energy beams capable of shredding a human body into fragments. Your youth and such prowess are indeed terrifying. The vice president of the Shadow Alliance, seeing the inexplicable breakdown of negotiations, grew weary of further discourse. He raised a scepter, crashing it down upon Qin Lang's head like a hammer. Simultaneously, the Gene warrior shifted his assault, the alloy curved sword slicing and sweeping with rapidity. The unknown energy beams, invisible to the naked eye, were exceedingly bizarre, yet possessed overwhelming lethality. Even the vice president of the Shadow Alliance would surely be left reeling should he encounter them. Qin Lang remained steadfast amidst the dual onslaught, his expression unchanged, even hinting at amusement. One might wonder which would prevail in the clash between the alloy curved sword and the vice president's scepter. He lifted a foot, effortlessly evading the Gene warrior's blade strikes, employing a peculiar calf movement to precisely avoid the impact zone of the so-called energy beams. With a swift kick from beneath the curved sword, its tip shot upward towards the descending vice president. Damn! The vice president was taken aback, unwilling to engage in the foolishness of inflicting harm upon himself while attempting to injure his opponent. He hastily raised his scepter to block the blade's assault. The clash rang out, the scepter, composed of a special alloy, producing a crisp sound upon collision with the curved sword. The vice president was propelled backward by the force, sustaining injuries to his arm and shoulder, blood soaking through. He glared at the Gene warrior with a pallid expression, his suspicions aroused. Had he not perceived that the sword's attack was redirected by Qin Lang, he might have doubted whether the Jin warrior intended to kill him. How is it possible? How can you evade? The Jin warrior stared at Qin Lang in terror. Even he struggled to accurately discern the specific damage radius of the energy beams that served as his weapon, only able to make rough predictions. Who would have guessed that Qin Lang could dodge with such precision through mere subtle movements? A slight miscalculation could result in his leg being utterly shattered by the energy beams. Want to learn? I will teach you. Qin Lang's gaze lingered on the silver armor adorning the Jin warrior and the curved sword he wielded, a twinge of greed surfacing. However, in exchange, he demanded a transaction. Perhaps loan me 200 or 300 sets of Jin warrior suits, or bring me an entire battalion of Jin warriors. At this juncture, should he remain oblivious, he would truly be a fool. The so-called Jin warriors were merely enhanced individuals. Their extraordinary combat prowess derived from the augmentation of armor and curved blades, akin to elite soldiers from a certain powerful nation. If he could acquire the corresponding suits to bestow upon Junzi, then Junzi too could possess such exceptional combat strength. Should his bodyguards be equipped with these suits, would their combat capabilities not undergo a monumental transformation? What a remarkable treasure! Truly a remarkable treasure. Dream on, perish. The Jin warrior seethed with rage. Such advanced technology was present in no more than 3 units within the entire laboratory, and those were still undergoing modifications. Ordinary individuals could not don such equipment, as the overwhelming pressure would crush their internal organs to oblivion. Brandishing a curved blade, the warrior's left hand, encased in alloy armor, executed a standard grappling maneuver aimed at Qin Lang's shoulder, the blade arcing menacingly once more. Qin Lang had intended to prolong the skirmish, not wishing for a swift resolution to the conflict. Meanwhile, Luo Qingyu maneuvered with ease, while Junzi's coordination with Shirakana resulted in a relentless onslaught against Luan Hui and Chen Fan. The discord between the two was evident, their lack of synergy leading to a continuous retreat. Compounding the situation, Chen Fan, perhaps still harboring sentiments of camaraderie, inadvertently drew more ire towards himself. He found himself besieged by foes in dire straits, sustaining the most injuries, both in number and severity. Should this impasse persist, Chen Fan risked losing half his life in this engagement. Why not embrace such a fate? Yet, the Jin warrior began to undergo a transformation. Its aura intensified, and the silver armor became adorned with layers of crimson patterns, akin to a chameleon, compelling Qin Lang to momentarily withdraw from the fray. All of you perish. The alloy warrior swung its curved blade with increasing velocity, leaving only ephemeral shadows in its wake. Nearby boulders, positioned dozens of meters away, inexplicably shattered into fragments, while the ground was marred by peculiar, elongated gashes, plunging 3 inches deep. Qin Lang furrowed his brow, observing the increasingly frenzied alloy warrior, feeling a twinge of irritation. Could it be that such equipment renders one single-minded, unable to maintain control over oneself? As the alloy warrior unleashed a torrent of attacks, he continually retreated, luring it towards the battlefield occupied by Chen Fan and Luan Hui to assess the situation. Suddenly, a series of inexplicable, gruesome sounds echoed. One after another, the assailants fell, struck by invisible energy beams. Those fortunate enough merely lost a few chunks of flesh, while the unfortunate had their heads severed cleanly from their bodies. In the blink of an eye, casualties exceeded 5. Qin Lang, how ruthlessly malicious you are. Chen Fan dodged nimbly, a substantial portion of flesh torn from his right arm. His eyes ablaze with fury as he glared at Qin Lang. Fool! Qin Lang retorted, then turned his attention towards Luan Hui, his expression suddenly grave, propelling himself towards her position. Upon noticing this, Luan Hui frantically retreated, instinctively arching her back and lowering her arms to avoid contact with Qin Lang. It was as if a past failure to escape haunted her, driving her to compensate desperately in that moment. Qin Lang was compelled to find a point of leverage. Scanning his surroundings, he could only charge towards the conspicuous companion beast, seizing Luan Hui with a sudden, forceful grip to pull her away from behind. Thief! Luan Hui reacted like a startled wildcat, her hair bristling as she raised her hand to strike at Qin Lang. As the hand of reincarnation descended upon Qin Lang, a towering rock behind her suddenly erupted, shattering into countless fragments. With a resounding crash, she sensed a drastic reduction in her power. Yet even so, her strike against Qin Lang's chest sent him hurtling backward. In midair, Qin Lang clutched his chest, expelling a copious amount of black blood. and pointed a trembling finger toward the direction of reincarnation, whispering a name only they could hear. Is it you? Is it you? Chapter 348. The child of fate generously dispenses, bestowing abundant villainous values. Qin Lang's eyes widened in disbelief, his pupils constricting as a look of incredulity washed over him, akin to the revelation of a momentous secret. This left reincarnation momentarily stunned. Had she been discovered? Had Qin Lang truly remained oblivious to her identity until that very moment? What manner of situation was this? Reincarnation's heart was torn between sorrow and bitterness. It pained her that Qin Lang had utterly shattered her pride, and yet remained unaware of who she truly was. The bitterness stemmed from the realization that had Qin Lang not intervened, she might have suffered grievous injury or even death at the hands of the invisible energy that threatened her. Most intolerable was the fact that Qin Lang had discerned her former identity merely by seizing her arm. That wretched man, even having been saved. Her heart brimmed with furious resentment. She would have preferred to be struck by that energy beam, even to the point of death, rather than accept this outcome. It felt like an implicit acknowledgement that Qin Lang was intimately familiar with her body. This was an irredeemable humiliation. Qin Lang, you shall pay for this. Meanwhile, Chun Fan, witnessing this scene, was consumed by a wrathful fury, his entire being enveloped in a violent aura as he charged forward with bloodshot eyes. How dare he? How dare Qin Lang humiliate his fourth senior sister in his presence? She was the one he cherished most, akin to a sacred treasure. And how could someone like Qin Lang, a frivolous scion, dare to lay hands on her? With a leap, he lunged at Qin Lang, embodying the ferocity of a starving tiger pouncing on its prey, intent on delivering a crushing blow. In midair, Qin Lang had closed his eyes, showing no signs of resistance. Just as Chun Fan was about to bring his fists down, Luo Qingyu, having evaded the chaos unleashed by the Jin warriors, arrived. With a deft flick of her sword, she deflected Chun Fan's attack and carved a deep gash into his arm. Steadying herself, she supported Qin Lang and leveled her sword at Chun Fan's face. Frowning as she admonished, Chun Fan, how dare you? Qin Lang saved reincarnation first. Though she repaid his kindness with ingratitude, you would dare to resort to violence. Do you think Luo Qingyu would shy away from defending what is right? Step any closer, and I, Luo Qingyu, shall ensure your demise today. Her words were imbued with an icy chill, devoid of any semblance of camaraderie, as if she had already relegated Chun Fan to the status of an outsider. Time and again, she had considered the bonds of their shared sect, countless times neglecting the feelings of Qin Lang. If she were to place herself in Qin Lang's shoes, how would she feel if her fellow disciples were conspiring to assassinate her, and yet he sided with his brethren? This time, she could no longer afford to be biased. She would rely solely on her thoughts and her perceptions. As for the reincarnation, you owe your life to Qin Lang. Had it not been for his timely intervention, you would have been grievously wounded by the Jin warriors, perhaps even dead. What audacity you possess to repay kindness with malice in your sect. In that moment, Luo Qingyu, with one arm encircling the injured Qin Lang, rebuked Chun Fan before turning her fury towards reincarnation. Her exquisite visage was etched with rage, a sickly flush adorning her cheeks, reminiscent of a volcano poised to erupt, ready to unleash her vengeance upon reincarnation at any moment. I have already tempered my strength. How could I possibly inflict such grievous harm? My capabilities are simply not within such bounds. Reincarnation hastily regained composure, suppressing the indignation and frustration within, arguing his case with conviction. As for Chun Fan, she couldn't be bothered to spare him even a glance. His actions bore no relevance to her. Taking advantage of Qin Lang's injury to strike a blow was the mark of a base coward. Qin Lang nestled in Luo Qingyu's embrace, wrapping his arms around her neck. Inhaling a faint, refreshing scent that contrasted sharply with the cloying fragrances of perfumes, evoking a floral aroma that was both enchanting and soothing to the soul. He took a few deep breaths, his fist resting against his lips, casually brushing the back of his hand against Luo Qingyu's heart. He solemnly declared, Qingyu, do not blame your junior sister. Perhaps it was my eagerness to save that crossed her boundaries. My injuries have nothing to do with her. They were caused by the unseen energy beams. On the battlefield, a Jin warrior clad in silvery alloy armor rampaged wildly, indiscriminately slashing in all directions. Massive boulders shattered, the ground fracturing into a web of cracks resembling a spider's net. This creature had truly lost its mind. In its grip, the alloy scimitar was particularly ominous, as the invisible attacks from the energy beams could emerge from any direction, compelling both sides to evade. Qin Lang naturally shifted the blame for his grievous wounds onto the energy beams. He possessed the advanced danger perception to discern the precise locations of these energy beams. Yet Luo Qingyu could not, nor could anyone else. Who could contradict his claim of being harmed by the energy beams? Chun Fan? Or perhaps the vice president of the Shadow Alliance? Even the Jin warriors themselves could not ascertain it with absolute certainty. Young Master Qin, are you all right? Kawai Ishihara, having distanced herself from the battlefield, gazed at Qin Lang, cradled in Luo Qingyu's single arm, her eyes wide with terror and confusion. Instinctively, she reached out, wishing to assist him into a more comfortable position. Now, having witnessed Qin Lang's formidable prowess, she had wholeheartedly pledged her allegiance to this enigmatic man from the Dragon Nation. Only he could possibly aid her in avenging the deep-seated blood feud that haunted her. Upon witnessing the situation, the soldiers trailing behind swiftly gestured to halt Shi Yuan Can's movements, emphasizing the perilous condition of the young master. He must not make any reckless movements. It was imperative to maintain his position and rely on Miss Luo for support. I am fine, do not worry, Qin Lang assured, his legs propped against the ground as he executed a delicate, enchanting shuffle, elevating himself by an additional 20 centimeters. Leaning against Luo Qingyu's fragrant shoulder, he caught sight of her glistening earlobe and the delicately smooth skin that seemed almost fragile. Resting against her was permissible, as was reclining on her shoulder. What shall we do now? Luo Qingyu inquired, her ears tingling with an inexplicable sensation, yet she found herself unable to voice her discomfort, thus adopting a serious demeanor. The genetic warrior in the arena wreaked havoc, his sudden surge in power rendering even the high-ranking judges of the Demon Extermination Society and the vice president of the Shadow Alliance hesitant to confront him at this moment. It seemed the warrior's armor had malfunctioned, drastically enhancing his physical capabilities but leaving him unable to adapt, resulting in a state of mental disarray. Qin Lang calmly explained it. One arm wrapped around the slender waist of his senior sister, Luo Qingyu, while his gaze, filled with a tumult of emotions, fixated on the direction of reincarnation. There was an inexplicable sentiment lurking within this exchange. Chun Fan, who had been observing from the sidelines, felt an overwhelming sense of discomfort, akin to consuming something repulsive. It was intolerable that Qin Lang, the very person who embraced his most admired senior sister, dared to gaze at his most cherished fourth sister with such intensity. To the uninformed, it might appear as though there was a significant connection between them. Was it merely a fleeting touch to the fourth sister's chest? Ding! The Child of Fortune, consumed by intense fury, awarded the host with 20,000 points of Villainous Destiny. Chapter 349, Reincarnation, Day Defense, Night Defense. But the Master Thief is unpreventable. Ding! The fortune of Chun Fan diminished by 500 points. Congratulations to the host for acquiring 10,000 points of Villainous Destiny. Ding! A rift formed between the Child of Fortune, Chun Fan, and the Child of Fortune, Luo Qingyu. Congratulations to the host for obtaining 50,000 points of Villainous Destiny. Ding! A schism arose between the Child of Fortune, Chun Fan, and the Child of Fortune, Reincarnation, granting the host an additional 20,000 points of Villainous Destiny. As the system notifications chimed, Qin Lang felt an exhilarating surge of relief, as if his previously depleted spirit had been replenished to an extraordinary degree, leaving him utterly satisfied. What Chun Fan? The image of his fourth sister being humiliated by Qin Lang replayed incessantly in his mind, a heavy weight pressing upon his chest. As if a massive stone sat atop him, with a wretched dog perched upon it, defiling his face. The disgust was unbearable, particularly upon witnessing his fourth sister exchanging glances with Qin Lang. An intense frustration brewed within him, refusing to subside. Fourth sister. Chun Fan's voice was laced with coldness. Reincarnation, snapping back to reality, shot an irate glance at Chun Fan, dismissing him with indifference. Her heart felt like a tangled web, unsettled under Qin Lang's penetrating gaze. What was his intention? Why did his eyes reflect such a complex mixture of emotions? It seemed like pity, yet more so disbelief. Why indeed? The cycle of reincarnation was not something that naive young girls, yearning for love, could comprehend. She certainly did not believe that Qin Lang's recognition of her as the woman from that fateful night would lead to any entanglement of love or hate. That was utterly impossible. She loathed Qin Lang, wishing nothing less than to consume his flesh and drink his blood. The feeling was mutual. That night, Qin Lang had resembled a ravenous wolf, merciless and fierce, surpassing even the wildest beasts. How could someone who acted in such a manner possibly show her compassion or care? This man was undoubtedly a villain with a human face and a beast's heart. Yet, why had he recklessly saved her when the energy beam from that genetic warrior had struck? A tumult of emotions twisted and intertwined within her, leaving her momentarily lost in the chaos of her thoughts. Boom! On the battlefield, the genetic warrior rampaged, and no one dared to obstruct its path as it arrogantly charged into the dense forest, taking on the role of a lumberjack. The vice president of the Shadow Alliance gasped in disbelief upon witnessing the formidable ally he had summoned. What kind of monstrous genetic warrior was this? It indeed gained immense power in a frenzy, but was indiscriminate in its slaughter. Had they not evaded in time, they would have already fallen victim to the genetic warrior's wrath. Fortunately, Qin Lang was injured. The opposing strongest leader of the Sea Emperor gang had lost his combat capability. Where was the Shadow Guardian? The opportunity to defeat the leader of the Sea Emperor gang was a rare one that must not be missed. Whoever brought back the leader's head would earn great merit. The vice president of the Shadow Alliance commanded coldly, as the three guardians eyed the situation hungrily. Their combat strength far surpassed that of their adversaries, and with the mightiest Qin Lang wounded, the advantage was clear. The three charged towards Qin Lang with fierce intent. The high-ranking judge from the Western Demon-Slaying Society glanced over his subordinates, and the rest of the assassins, without a second thought, took the lead, rushing forward. Looking for death. How dare they lay their hands on my young master? Junzi snorted coldly, leading the charge himself. Shira Kanai followed closely, but their combined strength was insufficient to contend with the three guardians and over a dozen formidable foes. After hastily bandaging the leader of the hidden killers, Su Chan, Ning Qianqian shook her sleeves, her beautiful eyes glaring. How dare they target my man? If I stand idly by while my second sister is in danger, I would be a fool. Ning Qianqian drew a short blade from her sleeve, her azure gown billowing like a protective mother cow, charging fiercely into the fray. She faced the three formidable guardians alone, presenting a lopsided situation. The brash words she had just uttered were soon crushed under their onslaught. Nevertheless, she clenched her jaw, remaining silent. Speaking would bear no fruit. Qin Lang was injured, and her senior sister was providing protection. Moreover, the vice president of the Shadow Alliance and the senior judge of the Western Demon Extermination Society were watching with hawk-like intensity. There was simply no hope for assistance. Chun Fan, reincarnation, what are you two still doing? At this moment, we rise or fall together. Do you truly wish to remain aloof? Luo Qingyu hesitated for a moment before urging Chun Fan and reincarnation. Given the capabilities of the three junior sisters, they were woefully inadequate to withstand the opposition. At the current rate, defeat would come within mere minutes, or worse, they might face annihilation. Currently, Junzi bore his injuries, with a deep gash on his arm revealing bone. Were it not for the powerful healing properties of the beauty pill, he would have likely lost the use of that arm by now. I am here to rescue my second senior sister. What does that have to do with Qin Lang? Chun Fan squinted, his gaze filled with hostility as he regarded his senior sister. Huh, you spoke of cleansing the ranks not long ago, and now you seek to rely on him to protect Qin Lang? What does Chun Fan mean to you? Even if I perish here, what fear do I have? Why would I risk my life for Qin Lang? I would rather see him dead. Surely, the fourth senior sister harbored similar sentiments. His expression shifted as he glanced toward reincarnation, observing that he was already fighting alongside Ning Qianqian, even managing to draw away two of the Shadow Alliance's guardians. Engaging in fierce combat. Fourth senior sister, you are indeed loyal and grateful. Unlike that shameless Chun Fan, who is so petty, he does not even consider the pain he inflicts on his seventh brother-in-law. Henceforth, I shall no longer acknowledge this junior brother. Ning Qianqian deftly sent one of the Shadow Guardians soaring with a single sweep of her sword, her hand trembling slightly as she scattered a small portion of the soft bone powder. Simultaneously, she cast a fierce glare in Chun Fan's direction, her frustration palpable, as if she were seeing nothing but a nose where a nose should be, and nothing but eyes where eyes should be. She swiftly maneuvered through the battlefield, engaging one Shadow Guardian while intermittently aiding reincarnation, Junzi, and even Shira Rin in combating the stronger assassins among them. Before long, a Shadow Guardian cried out, "Beware! This woman is using poison. We have been poisoned." In this level of combat, even with reincarnation's intervention, bolstering their ranks, the presence of three guardians and a dozen formidable foes surrounding them still constituted an overwhelming advantage. Yet as time passed, it seemed as though the battle had reached a stalemate. There was something amiss. Fourth senior sister, this is the antidote for the soft bone powder. Take it. Junzi and Xia Rin have already consumed theirs. Ning Qianqian tossed a pill to reincarnation and urged him softly. The soft bone powder she had released was colorless and tasteless, most of which had been ingested by the opponents, but as it wafted away, it inevitably affected her side as well, requiring vigilance. As Luan Hui gazed at the pill in her hand, a familiar tingling sensation coursed through her body, reminiscent of that night, filled with helplessness and despair. Was that medication given to Qin Lang by the junior sister? In an instant, fury surged within her, causing her legs to tremble ever so slightly, akin to the instinctive shivering one experiences after being shouldered by someone for several hours and then set down. Her beautiful eyes widened in a glare at the junior sister. Her long sword clutched tightly, longing to pierce the junior sister's heart and uncover whether it was tainted. Enough of this nonsense. This must end here. The vice president of the Shadow Alliance and the senior judge of the Western Demon Slayer Association had both intervened. One wielded a metallic scepter, while the other held a staff topped with a bat's head. They were undoubtedly the most powerful individuals present. They could no longer allow the situation to escalate. Every wasted minute would allow Qin Lang to heal another wound. Seizing the advantageous moment, they had to quell the turmoil decisively. Though filled with myriad resentments, Luan Hui could not unleash her wrath upon the junior sister. Instead, she channeled all her fury towards the senior judge of the Western Demon Slayer Association. Transforming into a shadow, she melded with her surroundings, becoming an elite assassin, relentlessly launching precise attacks against the elder with white hair. Lo Qingyu could no longer stand idly by. She placed Qin Lang before the second junior sister, shot a glare in Chun Fan's direction as if to convey a warning, and then charged towards the vice president of the Shadow Alliance, sword in hand. On three fronts, Lo Qingyu faced the vice president. Luan Hui confronted the senior judge, while Junzi, Xia Kanna, and Ning Qianqian engaged three formidable guardians along with a dozen other powerful adversaries. Even though all three parties were at a disadvantage, a tense stalemate emerged, with no clear distinction between life and death, only an unyielding onslaught. Chun Fan observed anxiously. He refrained from intervening with the elder sister and seventh sister. Yet the fourth sister was locked in a losing battle against the senior judge of the Western Demon Slayer Association. As time passed, the disadvantage became increasingly apparent, evident wounds beginning to mar their bodies. Gripping his weapon tightly, he hesitated, caught in a whirlwind of thoughts. So, you're the master of hidden killings? You previously placed a bounty on my head, intending to eliminate me, according to the ways of our world? Qin Lang shifted beside Su Chan, smiling as he spoke. Though we may not yet be friends, surely we need not resort to violence against one another? Look at this situation. If we are fortunate enough to survive, will you still seek to kill me? Certain matters needed clarification from Qin Lang. He was a villain who could discern between gratitude and enmity. For instance, when the blood-red mandala first approached, intent on stabbing him, even now, having developed an amicable rapport, Qin Lang had not forgotten that grudge. He would forever remember this incident. Even the formidable killer Su Chan is no exception. Should anyone dare to pierce him with a blade, Qin Lang would undoubtedly repay the offense 100-fold. Nay, he would dedicate his entire life to the lesson. Su Chan's gaze fell upon the distant scene where her senior sister battled against the vice president of the Shadow Alliance. Momentarily drawn in by Qin Lang's words, beneath her long bangs, her eyes, devoid of any emotion, merely contemplated the matter before she gently shook her head. Speaking not a word, her actions against Qin Lang stemmed solely from a misjudgment regarding his alleged collusion with the Dark Blade and connections to the organization of Sakura Country. Now, with both her senior sister and junior sister allied with the Dark Lord Ishihara Kanai to rescue her, she no longer harbored grievances over her previous misconceptions. To the outside world, the so-called bounty on the killer might inspire trepidation. Yet for Su Chan herself, it was hardly a significant concern. She would slay whom she desired, and none could compel her otherwise. With the misunderstanding resolved, Qin Lang was taken aback, having thought she would insist on eliminating him to feel satisfied. It felt as if a great weight had lifted from his chest, and he patted himself down to ease the tension. With one hand resting on Su Chan's shoulder, he pointed towards Chun Fan, exclaiming, "Look, isn't this fellow utterly uncooperative? While everyone else is fighting for their lives, he merely stands there like a fool." Though he bore a superficial wound on his arm, inflicted by Qingyu, it was hardly severe. What did it mean? Was he merely hoping for easy gain? Qin Lang had heard that the lad had fervently pursued Qingyu within their sect. Unbeknownst to him, His words had caught Chun Fan's attention, while Su Chan exhibited little resistance to his advances. Injured as she was, she found herself unperturbed by the unexpected intimacy of Qin Lang's arm around her shoulder. Curiosity piqued. She wondered why he remained so composed in the face of such dire circumstances. Hadn't he sustained grave injuries? Why the silence? What does it mean that you're not responding? Is there any truth to this gossip? After all, Qin Yu is my fiancé, and if this fellow continues to pursue her shamelessly, I must be on guard. Qin Lang, comfortably draped over Su Chan's shoulder like an old acquaintance, conversed with ease. Having faced rejection on numerous occasions, Su Chan coldly replied with a single sentence. While Qin Lang was aware of her hidden attributes, her combative and warlike nature, he remained oblivious to her limited verbal interactions. Yet for Chun Fan, witnessing such a remark from the second senior sister was astonishing. Had she just expressed in one sentence all the words she would typically utter in a month, and all of them disparaging him? Ding! The Son of Destiny's rage surged, congratulating the host with a reward of 10,000 villain points. Listening to the system's notification, Qin Lang remained unfazed, leaning against Su Chan with occasional pats on her shoulder, casting a glance toward Chun Fan with a sneer. It seemed that not only the barmaid, but also the senior sister of the same sect was keen on him, and now even the fourth senior sister did not wish to go unheeded. Indeed, the toad-like creature appeared unappealing, yet provoked a sense of intrigue. With a glance towards Chun Fan, Su Chan promptly launched a series of rebuttals. Her sentiments towards Chun Fan had always been rooted in camaraderie, devoid of deeper affection. Even in the original narrative, the only one to harbor affection for Chun Fan was the fourth senior sister, Ren Huan. As the author, burdened with the task of extending the storyline across 7 scripts, needed to introduce various plots to maintain coherence. If all 7 senior sisters were enamored with the junior disciple, how could the narrative sustain itself? The remaining 6 senior sisters, including Su Chan, primarily regarded Chun Fan with a sense of fellow discipleship, lacking profound emotional ties. Particularly after the recent events, Su Chan found herself increasingly disillusioned with Chun Fan, favoring her own elder sister instead. With even the elder sister severing her ties with the junior disciple, it was only natural for a rift to form between them. Poor Chun Fan remained oblivious to the fact that among the 4 senior sisters who were initially inclined to support him, 3 had defected, aligning themselves with Qin Lang. Only Ren Huan, who had once held a favorable view of him, found her opinion tainted by his reckless actions. Although she had yet to fully abandon him for Qin Lang, the latter remained indifferent to such shifts in loyalty. Chun Fan felt Qin Lang's inscrutable gaze upon him, an exasperating sensation akin to having a bird's droppings land on his head. Clenching his weapon tightly, he charged towards the supreme judge of the Demon Extermination Society, his roar echoing like thunder, his eyes ablaze with resolve reminiscent of a fish determined to break the net. He envisioned the supreme judge as Qin Lang, pouring every ounce of strength into his assault, intent on delivering a devastating blow. He believed that if he could survive this encounter, he would ensure that next time, regardless of his elder sister's interference, he would obliterate Qin Lang. Old fool, perish! Chun Fan wielded a long blade, unleashing a flurry of strikes, conjuring dozens of blade shadows that rained down with tremendous force. Boom! The ground beneath him shattered as colossal boulders erupted, leaving deep gashes resembling an intricate spider's web. Initially, the Supreme Judge faced Ren Huan with ease, but now, under the duress of a 2-pronged attack, he began to falter. Chun Fan and his frenzied onslaught surpassed their previous strength, seemingly experiencing a temporary surge in power. The Supreme Judge, overwhelmed, retreated towards the dense forest, his brow furrowed in dismay. With a powerful swing, Chun Fan's blade coalesced into a solid form, cleaving through trees as if they were lined up for execution, each one toppling in swift succession, sending a cascade of withered leaves into the air. Where were the members of the Demon Extermination Society? Your Excellency, Vice President, do you intend to continue wasting time? Must you await my demise in battle before you are compelled to respond with full force? The Chief Judge, with a bat-headed cane, was suddenly gripped by terror, seeking refuge from the Vice President of the Demon Extermination Society and the Shadow Alliance. This unfortunate soul, who had been relentlessly suppressed by the adversary, had expected to merely serve as a backdrop, yet unexpectedly unleashed such formidable combat prowess at this critical moment. He even stood on the brink of a breakthrough. Should he succeed, what chaos would ensue? Partnering with the cycle of reincarnation, would they not be able to eliminate him for good? Go to your death. Chun Fan, as if ensnared in a dream, instinctively swung his blade with ferocity. He felt himself immersed in an enigmatic state. With each swing of his weapon, he received an overwhelming surge of experience and stamina. Such a mysterious phenomenon had graced him on more than one occasion. In the face of dire peril, he had encountered similar situations. It was a sign of imminent breakthrough. He was unwilling to forfeit this exquisite opportunity. Following the instinctual response of his body, the speed of his strikes intensified, the number of blade shadows multiplying in the air, their might escalating as he relentlessly pressed the chief judge. He exuded a formidable aura, as if a single warrior could hold back a multitude. Could it be that this fellow was on the verge of breaking through? Damnable luck. How could he achieve such a feat at this moment? If he truly succeeded, what would happen if the senior sister could not contend with him? What if he turned his aggression towards Qin Lang? Who could possibly stand against him? Ning Qianqian murmured softly, a sense of vigilance rising within her, as she discreetly retrieved a colorless, odorless potion from her pocket. This potion possessed potent effects, rendering its victim incapable of exerting more than 50% of their power for a significant duration. This would neither impede Chun Fan's ascent to advanced strength, nor, once the battle concluded and the potion took effect, leave Qin Lang defenseless. By the time Chun Fan's effect waned, Qin Lang would likely have recovered, rendering any fear of this individual unnecessary. Little junior brother, I am here to assist you. Ning Qianqian glided away from the protective presence of the Shadow Alliance, drifting towards Chun Fan. Out of my way! Chun Fan, without turning, bellowed angrily as he furiously swung his blade at the chief judge. Abruptly halting before Ning Qianqian, who was approaching, she indignantly pointed at Chun Fan, releasing a fine, colorless powder towards him. With an exasperated tone, she scolded, "You, Chun Fan, take heed. Good intentions unreciprocated will bring you divine retribution." Having unleashed her indignation, she swiftly retreated, having never intended to assist. Junzi, Shira Hikari, and Luo Qingyu exchanged concerned glances toward Qin Lang upon witnessing Chun Fan's fierce demeanor. This fellow is quite fortunate, indeed, to break through his physical limits at such a time. Qin Lang clicked his tongue, observing Chun Fan as he basked in this marvelous state, marveling at his fortune. Truly, he is the child of destiny, having plundered such an abundance of fortune. If it were Yi Feng, Chun Ping'an, or his good brother Hao Zi, they would likely have succumbed to a backlash by now. Yet, Chun Fan remains unscathed, even managing to break through amidst peril. How absurd, remarkably strong. Compared to you, he is not as powerful as he was when fully healed. Su Chan cast a glance, articulating the objective truth in mere phrases. But I am injured now. My strength diminished to a mere fraction. Qin Lang shook his head in resignation. On the battlefield, an astonishing aura erupted from Chun Fan's direction, accompanied by a destructive force that ravaged the surroundings. Sand and stones flew, boulders shattered, and great trees snapped in half. His aura approached a pinnacle, teetering on the brink of a successful breakthrough. Chun Fan's heart surged with elation, envisioning the moment he would cleave the High Judge of the Western Demon Extermination Society in two, before subsequently overpowering Qin Lang. But just then, an unexpected turn of events transpired. Today, all of Dragon Kingdom's people must perish. From the depths of the forest, the Jin warrior returned, his silver armor undergoing a dramatic transformation, now exhibiting a peculiar crimson hue as if stained with blood. The alloy scimitar in his grasp had also undergone an enigmatic metamorphosis, morphing into a wide, dark blade approximately 1 meter long and 1.5 inches wide. His once crimson eyes regained their clarity, locking onto Chun Fan, who was fervently suppressing the High Judge. Chun Fan redirected his long blade, his aura peaking in its vigor, brimming with ambition as if he could cleave through all adversaries of this world. Hundreds of blade shadows dazzled in the air, radiating brilliant light, almost blinding. As they descended, they converged with the force of a thunderous tempest into a colossal sword, bearing down on the Jin warrior with an insurmountable force. Arrogant, the Jin warrior scoffed, finding the Dragon Kingdom's language awkward, switching tongues to unleash a furious retort. The blood-red blade swept upward, colliding with a massive blade shadow descending from Chun Fan, erupting into a brilliant, blinding flash of white light. Boom! With a thunderous crash, the Jin warrior remained as steadfast as a mountain, while the airborne Chun Fan plummeted like a deflated balloon, the long blade fracturing at the hilt, blood oozing from his palms. In midair, he coughed up a copious amount of black blood, his once formidable aura dwindling in an instant. Chapter 351. Qin Lang. My strength is but a fraction of what it once was. Bang! Chun Fan was struck down, crashing into the ground with a thunderous noise, skidding across the surface until his trousers nearly tore against the scattered gravel, raising a cloud of dust. Ultimately, he was halted by a great tree, colliding with it in a resounding crash, flipping him backward into a position resembling a headstand, his rear above his head. Puff! He expelled another torrent of blood, which streamed from his nose to his forehead, his already weakened aura further deteriorating. Why? Why has this happened? Chun Fan maintained a remarkably disheveled stance, gazing at the toppled genetic warrior. The previously overwhelming aura had vanished without a trace, and even the slightest attempt to rekindle his former prowess proved utterly futile. He felt as though he had been struck by a speeding locomotive. Fortunately, the blade energy he had unleashed had intercepted the initial wave of assault. Otherwise, he would have undoubtedly been utterly obliterated by the genetic warrior's strike. He was loath to accept this harsh reality. On the verge of a breakthrough, he found himself thwarted by a single blow from the genetic warrior, suffering severe backlash in the process. His envisioned revenge scenario had dissolved into mere illusion. Hatred, an overwhelming tide of rage, surged within him. At that moment, the person Qin Fan loathed most was not the genetic warrior. Instinctively, his gaze shifted toward Qin Lang, who appeared on the verge of burrowing into the embrace of his second senior sister, further fueling his fury. With a violent retch, he expelled another mouthful of blood. What a worthless being. Today, all people of the Dragon Country must perish. The genetic warrior cast a disdainful glance in Chun Fan's direction, regarding him with the indifference of a drenched dog, utterly uninterested. The armor he donned was crafted from the most advanced scientific technology of the beautiful country, possessing significant potential for enhancement. His earlier rage had triggered a layer of armor and alloy curved blade lockdown, leading to a state of confusion and indiscriminate slaughter. Even he had not anticipated overcoming the negative repercussions of the armor within such a brief span, resulting in a dramatic transformation of his power. At that moment, the enemy was indifferent. He was invincible. Chun Fan had been defeated. No one here could thwart the genetic warrior. We were all doomed. Su Chan did not concern herself with the increasingly close Qin Lang, but instead fixated intently on the genetic warrior, yearning desperately to engage in battle. Yet her injuries rendered such aspirations impossible. Moreover, the genetic warrior's strength was already among the most formidable here, surpassing even that of her esteemed senior sister. Now, having breached a layer of armor lockdown, the situation had shifted drastically. Even if she fought with all her might, she had no confidence of securing victory. Chun Fan was in despair, witnessing his imminent breakthrough thwarted by the mad genetic warrior regaining its senses, leading to his downfall. Qin Lang shook his head in lament, unsure of how to articulate his thoughts. If one were to say Chun Fan was unfortunate, he had managed to break through at such a critical juncture, dramatically enhancing his power to the point where even the High Judge of the Western Demon Extermination Association could not hold his head high. How invigorating! Yet if one were to say Chun Fan was fortunate, it was at this very moment of triumph that he encountered the genetic warrior. The pivotal fact being that mere moments prior, the genetic warrior had been rampaging like a madman, indiscriminately slashing and even foolishly charging into the dense forest to clash with the ancient pines and cypress. At the very moment when Chun Fan was on the verge of a breakthrough, he regained his senses and dashed out, striking him down with a single blow, causing him to plummet from his ascent and suffer a severe backlash. The weight of his suffering is beyond measure. Your strength is formidable, capable of subduing two great masters. How do you compare against the Gene warriors? Su Chan seemed to sense her impending demise, her words pouring forth as if she sought to delineate the difference in prowess between Qin Lang and the Gene warriors in her final moments. Qin Lang pointed to himself, bewildered and incredulous, saying, "Me? What absurdity are you contemplating? Did you not witness how even Chun Fan, nearing his breakthrough, was effortlessly dispatched by the Gene warrior? To compare me with the Gene warrior is sheer folly. How could I possibly contend with him? Moreover, I am gravely injured, my strength reduced to a mere fraction. Engaging a Gene warrior would be tantamount to courting death." As his words fell, the Gene warrior, having abandoned Chun Fan, surged towards the fourth sister, Reincarnation. "Women from Long Country are exquisite. I find them delightful," he sneered, showing no regard for Reincarnation, who had managed to entangle the high-ranking judge of the Western Demon Extermination Society. In beautiful country, his status was elevated. He had access to any woman he desired. In fact, should he reveal his identity, a multitude of beauties would willingly present themselves. He had grown weary of the blonde, blue-eyed maidens of beautiful country. After indulging in rich delicacies, a humble dish of greens and tofu could also be a rare delight. Reincarnation, alarmed, sought to flee. However, the high-ranking judge, no longer hindered by Chan Fan, regained his former vigor, obstructing Reincarnation's escape route and forcing her to confront the Gene Warrior head-on. "I shall assist you." Luo Qingyu, her white dress billowing enchantingly, drew closer with a flick of her sword. Since the return of the Gene Warrior, the vice president of the Shadow Alliance had refrained from exerting her full strength, merely attempting to restrain her and prevent her from leaving, with no intention of guarding against her willingly stepping into danger. Seeking trouble with the Gene Warrior? That would be a death wish. Why would he intervene? It would spare him his own troubles. "If you are outmatched, destroy my body." Reincarnation gritted her teeth, softly cautioning the approaching Luo Qingyu. Even in death, she would not allow the Gene Warrior from beautiful country to triumph. Do you not understand the concept of surrender? Is it not said in your long country that those who recognize the times are the true talents? The Gene Warrior observed Reincarnation as she charged towards him, and with a gentle sweep of his blood-red blade, a sharp crack echoed through the air. Reincarnation's short blade shattered in two, blood seeping from her hand. As she was sent flying like a kite severed from its string, she lacked even the strength to fight back. Luo Qingyu, her expression composed and cold, stepped forward to catch her sister's falling form, her gaze fixed intently on the Gene Warrior, the sword in her hand trembling slightly. "You are more beautiful, aloof yet intriguing, igniting my anticipation for your grace in the bedroom." The Gene Warrior grinned, moving swiftly towards Luo Qingyu. Meanwhile, Qin Lang, who had been making light of the situation, finally adopted a serious demeanor. He silently extracted several petals of the Tianshan snow lotus and consumed them, preparing for any eventuality. Simultaneously, he quietly activated the third transformation of the 9 Revolutions Dragon technique, amplifying his physique by a staggering 3,375 times, elevating it from a mere 500 points to an astounding 16,875. Thus, before Su Chan, Qin Lang, who had boasted that his strength was nearly non-existent, transformed into a streak of white lightning and surged forth. In his wake, there was a fleeting pause of mere moments before a whirlwind of dust and debris erupted behind him. The Gene Warrior, yet to approach Luo Qingyu, suddenly sensed an overwhelming aura of murderous intent approaching from behind. Instinctively turning his head, he heard a particularly icy male voice. "You dare to insult my woman?" Chapter 352. Qin Lang, I truly am the great villain. The Gene Warrior felt an exceptionally powerful aura of hostility, akin to a sharp blade aimed at his face. The figure of Qin Lang, once indistinct, gradually became clearer. Coming to his senses, fury surged within him. What audacity! How dare he speak so arrogantly in his presence? With a swift motion, he swung his blood-red blade, a thunderous force propelling it towards Qin Lang's head, as if, in the next moment, a fine head would soar into the air. With a dull thud, Qin Lang pinched the blood-red blade between his fingers, his gaze slowly shifting from the blade to the Gene Warrior's face. His fingers trembled slightly as he flung the blade aside, as if to say, "Is this your attempt to kill me?" His expression remained indifferent, coldly observing. He had no intention of killing immediately. Rather, he sought to toy with his adversary, to slay not just the body but the spirit. With the third transformation of the 9 Revolutions Dragon technique activated, Qin Lang's physique surged by nearly 1,700 points, rendering him more formidable than ever before. This overwhelming power instilled in him a delusion of superiority, making every enemy before him seem as fragile as paper. However, as the adverse effects of the amplified physique began to take hold, he gradually regained his composure and promptly employed his armed color hockey, wrapping it around himself as his skin began to crack. The cracks appeared, but did not fully split. The life force contained within the petals of the Tianshan snow lotus he had consumed earlier continuously mended the damage on his body. More importantly, it seemed that after reaching a physique of 500, even with the activation of the third transformation of the 9 Revolutions Dragon technique, he no longer experienced the disorienting sensation of being consumed as he had during his initial use. He had adapted significantly. This sensation was truly exquisite. Qin Lang zi lently mavilet. Deeply understanding why Fan Zi had previously been so audacious. The Gene Warrior roared in fury, his arm gripping the blood-red blade, trembling violently. Regardless of the circumstances, He could scarcely fathom the magnitude of this man's strength. It was this very man who had compelled him to unshackle the first layer of his armor, resulting in a dramatic transformation of his power. He had initially believed Qin Lang to be gravely injured, incapable of being his opponent, and had intended to save him for last, to torment him slowly. Who would have thought he had been concealing his true capabilities all along? Kill, kill, kill. Rage, brutality, bloodlust. Various negative emotions brewed, layered, and erupted within the chest of the genetic warrior. Wielding a blood-red blade, he swung it relentlessly at Qin Lang, like a madman intent on cleaving him in twain and reducing him to mere dust. The air crackled with the sound of numerous blood shadows, accompanied by the eerie resonance of energy beams, reminiscent of the deep rumblings of thunder hidden within heavy clouds, or the mournful wails of wind seeping through thick glass. Hundreds of blood shadows coalesced into a gigantic blade, descending upon Qin Lang's head with lethal intent. The ground shattered beneath the impact, deep fissures stretching for dozens of meters, fracturing like shattered glass. This was the destructive power of the unseen energy beams emanating from the blood-red blade. Any attackers caught in its path would be obliterated, and even formidable figures such as the Reincarnation Warriors or the Vice President of the Shadow Alliance would face grave peril, if not severe injury. The genetic warrior's current prowess was unmatched. His physical attributes had surpassed 1,000 points, augmented by formidable armor and the lethal enhancement of the blood-red blade. Yet, fate had other plans, for he encountered Qin Lang. Despite the rampant explosions of energy beams, none affected him. He simply raised one hand, pinching the tip of the blood-red blade between two fingers, mockingly gazing at the genetic warrior's face, tauntingly reiterating, "Was that truly your full power? Surely not. I have only utilized 2 fingers thus far, and yet you cannot breach my defenses?" Enraged, the genetic warrior screamed, "I will see you dead, you detestable dragon kingdom man." The warrior's defenses were utterly shattered. He had contemplated the possibility of failing to kill Qin Lang, of his full-force strike being thwarted, but he never imagined it could be so effortlessly intercepted with merely 2 fingers. Withdrawing his blade, he concentrated all his strength, channeling it into his arms at that moment. His eyes transformed into a vivid crimson, resembling a ferocious tiger that had starved in the forest for 3 days, bloodthirsty and savage. Layers of muscle began to swell, and the blood-colored armor grew more imposing, adapting to the warrior's enhanced physique. A chilling sound of cracking bones echoed from the genetic warrior, as if some bizarre transformation were taking place, and his aura continued to ascend. This strike was terrifying. Even facing it, death was inevitable. The advanced research technologies of the beautiful country were unparalleled. Such high-tech armor was beyond comprehension, rendering a lifetime of martial training futile against an ordinary soldier clad in armor. This Dragon Kingdom individual was far too arrogant, courting his own demise. The vice president of the Shadow Alliance was horrified. The senior judge sighed, and the powerful figures among the attackers exchanged cold remarks. They seemed to foresee Qin Lang being cleaved in two. Not only the enemies, but even their own allies were filled with trepidation. "Qin Lang, run! Stop fighting!" Ning Qianqian cried out in alarm. The energy emanating from the Gene Warrior began to surge uncontrollably, as if it had slipped back into chaos. Had another layer of armor seal been activated? Was its power once again on the rise? She could not allow Qin Lang to endure such a strike, fearing she would become a widow. It was insurmountable. Luo Qingyu anxiously urged forward. Luan Hui's beautiful eyes were fixed intently on the immovable Qin Lang, a surge of inexplicable worry swelling in her heart. What did his earlier words signify? Was he defending the senior sister, or was he seeking vengeance for her? In an instant, Luan Hui shivered, realizing her thoughts had gone awry. Desperately resisting such chaotic musings and forcing herself to find solace. Qin Lang could perish, but he must never fall by another's hand. If death were to come, it must be at her own hand. In contrast, Chun Fan, slumped against the roots of a tree, had regained some strength and now looked on with a cold smile. Arrogant? Conceited? Had he not just displayed such traits? And what was the outcome? His breakthrough had been interrupted, and he not only failed to enhance his power, but had also suffered a backlash, leaving him in a pitiful state. If blame were to be assigned, it lay solely with Qin Lang for misjudging the timing of his ambush, for his own arrogance had led him to his self-imposed demise. Let him perish. Chun Fan sensed the lethal intent behind the Gene Warrior's strike. Even at his peak, he would have had to tread carefully. As for Qin Lang, he faced but a singular path to death. Amidst the gathering of gazes, Qin Lang wore an expression of indifference. observing the Gene warrior enveloped in a shroud of crimson blade shadows, and mockingly whispered, "Are you addicted to slashing?" In a flash, his speed was so swift it defied capture, vanishing from sight only to reappear before the Gene warrior. He executed a sweeping kick, a strike so formidable it aimed directly at the warrior's midsection. The speed was such that the Gene warrior, still gathering strength, had no chance to react before being struck. Thud! Like the resounding crash of a great bell. The Gene warrior, whose muscles still bulged, was sent hurtling to the ground like a rocket, akin to a meteor plummeting from the heavens. Among the throng of pursuers, 7 or 8 stood together, their eyes wide with horror as they beheld the incoming Gene warrior, now transformed into a projectile, and they frantically scattered in all directions. Alas, the force of the kick had been too fierce, the speed too great. The warrior truly became a veritable missile, crashing down in the blink of an eye. Boom! The ground trembled, stones and dust erupting like droplets from drum. The resounding roar and shockwave were enough to dazzle even the mightiest of warriors. More terrifying was the strange, invisible energy surge that erupted as the Gene warrior struck the earth, unleashing a terrifying shockwave that radiated outward. One after another, pursuers with strength rivaling that of 2 or even 3 Yifengs fell, some fortunate enough to lose only an arm or a leg, while others met a gruesome fate, their heads exploding like rotten watermelons. Witnessing this, all present gasped in disbelief. The sheer force of Qin Lang's kick had somehow unleashed an unprecedented wave of energy from the crimson blade held by the Gene warrior. Is it not to say that the speed of the Gene warrior surpasses that of his blood-red blade swing by more than a notch? What formidable power! It is akin to a divine being. Furthermore, there is no code of honor in combat, employing ambushes. More like a demon. Noticing the indignation in the eyes of the vice president of the Shadow Alliance and others, Qin Lang curled his lips. What does this mean? Is this disdain directed at him? Is there a misunderstanding? He is indeed the ultimate villain, not a favored child of fortune. Should he truly wait for the Gene warrior to gather strength and engage him in full force? What folly! Which villain would engage in such treacherous acts? His ancestral grave must be smoking in anger, with no one answering the rescue call, and struck by lightning to boot. Why should he squander his energy unnecessarily when he could comfortably lie back and let her come? Chapter 353. Preparing for the future, starting the layout flee. The High Judge of the Western Demon Extermination Society, sensing the peril, immediately turned to escape, neglecting even his closest subordinates. Better a dead friend than a dead priest. Even the mightiest Gene warrior is no match for Qin Lang, and these individuals, even when combined, cannot hope to harm him in the slightest. Not only him, but the vice president of the Shadow Alliance also made a hasty retreat. Want to run? Did you bother to seek my opinion? Qin Lang sneered, a gust of wind rising behind him, his form moving with such blinding speed that it was dizzying, dashing into the dense forest and seizing the black robe of the Shadow Alliance's vice president, dragging him towards the retreating High Judge. The speed of Qin Lang compared to these two foreign powers was on an entirely different level. Whether it was the High Judge of the Western Demon Extermination Society or the Vice President of the Shadow Alliance, even the strongest among them barely exceeded 800 points, appearing as insignificant as ants before Qin Lang. In less than 10 breaths, the two leaders who orchestrated this ambush were snatched up by Qin Lang and tossed beside the Gene warrior. Mr. Qin, the world is bustling, all for profit. The world is chaotic, all for gain. The Shadow Alliance has never had enmity with you, Mr. Qin. This conflict was entirely instigated by Kolan. As long as you are willing to spare me, I assure you that the Shadow Alliance will no longer harbor any thoughts towards this land of Kolan. Furthermore, regarding this incident, the Shadow Alliance will undoubtedly offer you substantial compensation. The vice president, rather than panicking, became tranquil. He had considered fleeing, but had not thought to contest Qin Lang. That would be courting death. Casting a glance at the Gene warrior, who resembled a beaten dog, a single kick nearly took away half of his life. This was still with the protection of high-tech armor. Had it been him, a kick from Qin Lang would have left him on the brink of death. At his level, he had naturally seen through the superficialities of the situation and grasped the underlying truth. As long as the compensation he offered was substantial enough, Qin Lang would be reluctant to take his life. Mr. Qin, my Western Demon Extermination Society possesses a vast enterprise and a significant chain of interests in the West. As the High Judge, I can mobilize over 20% of the energy within the society. If you are willing to release me, I assure you that henceforth, at your command, all the forces of the Western Demon Extermination Society that I can summon will serve you faithfully. The High Judge has offered his bargaining chip. Young Master Qin, both the Western Demon Extermination Society and the Shadow Alliance are colossal organizations in the West. Their influence is not to be underestimated. If we can recruit these two high-ranking officials, it would undoubtedly yield immeasurable benefits in the future. Ishihara Kana approached discreetly, whispering reminders of the distribution of power in the West, keen to elucidate the stakes to young Master Qin. Young Master Qin, I am the only warrior in the beautiful nation who has successfully mastered the genetic armor. My significance is unparalleled. Even if the Western Demon Extermination Society and the Shadow Alliance are formidable, they pale in comparison to the beautiful nation before us. These two organizations are akin to plankton before a whale. Should you choose to release me, the beautiful nation will undoubtedly offer you bountiful recompense. Noticing Qin Lang deep in thought, the genetic warrior desperately fought for his final chance at survival. Do you wish to live? Qin Lang approached the seemingly paralyzed figure of the white warrior, who had been so arrogant moments before. Now you cower? If you desire to live, it is not impossible. Simply rise and kneel before me. Bow 3 times, and I may grant you a path to survival. Young Master Qin, the genetic warrior was on the verge of tears. Engulfed in excruciating pain, every fiber of his being racked with agony. How could he possibly rise to kneel? Yet, upon encountering Qin Lang's frigid gaze, he gritted his teeth. Enduring the inhumane torment, crawling like a stray dog, inching his way to Qin Lang's feet. With a sudden heave, he spat out a mouthful of black blood, feeling as if magma were surging within his throat. Fresh blood began to seep from his crimson armor, the severity of his injuries evident. Thud! The genetic warrior shamefully bowed his head to the ground, feeling the earth and the taste of blood in a tormenting embrace. Thud! He gritted his teeth, delivering a second bow, rage boiling within him, vowing that upon returning to the beautiful nation, he would dismantle the subsequent locks of his armor and grow even stronger. One day, he would return to exact revenge, especially before Qin Lang, for the humiliation inflicted upon his woman. Just as the genetic warrior's fury simmered, and he prepared to lift his gaze, a cold shoe pressed down upon the back of his head. I keep my word. I promised you 3 bows for your life, but alas, you can only manage 2. With those chilling words, a sharp pain shot through the back of his head, and he promptly lost consciousness. His head exploded, a fatality beyond resurrection. A heartless execution. The esteemed Chief Justice and the Vice President both inwardly gasped in astonishment. Before them stood a man from the Dragon Kingdom, regarded with utmost reverence, leaving no room for even the slightest thought of rebellion. Qin Lang nonchalantly wiped his shoes on the gravel and cast a glance at the 2 elders, feeling a sense of satisfaction. He urged Ishihara Hikari, please administer your medicine to these 2 gentlemen. Henceforth, I hope they can regain their former glory and reach new heights. Their current status does not dictate their future. I firmly believe that one day, whether it be the Shadow Alliance or the Western Demon Slayers, they shall be held in high esteem. These 2 elders clearly did not belong in this narrative. To hedge his bets, Qin Lang decided to keep them as his trump cards. After all, in life and death situations, they might unleash unforeseen power and ascend to a higher echelon within their respective organizations. Whether strength, whether status, as long as they feared death, there remained ample opportunity for manipulation. Ishihara Hikari produced 2 pills and offered them to the Vice President and the Chief Justice. Please take these, she urged. Before either could inquire further, Qin Lang furrowed his brow and reprimanded. 1 pill each? We are allies now. Is there truly a need for such stinginess? Bring forth 100 more. Chapter 354. The cycle of retreat, he snatched a jade vial from Ishihara Hikari and forcefully opened the mouths of the 2 elders, pouring the contents down their throats. With a precise kick to their throats, he compelled them to swallow, nodding in satisfaction. From this day forth, you shall be my trusted confidants. After a brief pause, he gazed at the 2 elders with a warm smile and asked, do you understand? They nodded with bitter expressions, sensing the turmoil of unknown toxins within their bodies. They had severely underestimated Qin Lang's ambition, believing that compensation would secure their lives. Little did they know, though they survived, they had become mere pawns in Qin Lang's game. As long as you comprehend, let us settle our accounts clearly. The compensation you promised must still be honored. Qin Lang stated, nodding in satisfaction. After a few succinct remarks, he dismissed the 2 elders, turning his attention to the impending cleansing. Those who deserved to perish would be eliminated, while others would be spared. Yet, before their release, each would receive 100 pills. Their fates were now firmly in his grasp. In the desolate expanse, the air was thick with the stench of blood. More than 100 had perished here, akin to a mass grave, with a foul odor permeating the surroundings. How could you have become so powerful? It feels as though you were a different person. Ning Qianqian approached Qin Lang, scrutinizing him closely. And Chun Fan? Qin Lang inquired, his gaze fixed upon Chun Fan's previous location, feigning ignorance while fully aware of the situation. As I sprinted away, your sudden prowess astonished me. That fellow, perpetually at odds with you, must be quite foolish to remain in such perilous circumstances. Surely that is tantamount to courting death. Ning Qianqian cast a disdainful glance at the tree beneath, which lay only pools of blood. Upon hearing this, Qin Lang slumped helplessly to the ground, expelling a copious amount of fresh blood, his vitality instantly waning. The third transformation of the 9 turns celestial dragon art was undone, and the negative effects surged upon him like a tidal wave, each cell in his body aflame, as if being fried in hot oil, a torment most excruciating. Fortunately, Qin Lang had previously employed armed color domineering to manage the extensive fissures across his skin, and he had also ingested several petals of the Tianshan snow lotus in advance. Coupled with an enhancement of his physique, now reaching 500 points, he managed to stave off unconsciousness. Yet, even so, the discomfort was palpable. Were he to succumb to oblivion, he would be devoid of pain. Instead, he now endured this relentless agony. Are you all right? What happened? Why do you suddenly seem incapacitated? Ning Qianqian crouched down in a flurry of concern, hastily checking his pulse. Sensing the tumultuous energy and chaotic blood flow within Qin Lang, she found herself momentarily at a loss, unable to discern the nature of his condition. It felt as though 2 entities were battling within him, one intent on destruction, while the other sought to heal. What is happening? Why are you hesitating? Hurry and treat him. Luo Qingyu rushed over, her brows furrowed, her beautiful eyes brimming with worry, and in her urgency, she implored Ning Qianqian to act swiftly. Ning Qianqian raised her hand, a look of confusion etched on her face. Turning back, she spoke with a tinge of bitterness. I do not know how to proceed. There are 2, no, 3 energies clashing within Qin Lang. 1 is destructive, while 2 are healing. One of the healing energies resembles that of the Tianshan snow lotus, which I am familiar with, but the other is entirely foreign to me. What if my interference disrupts the healing energy? Even Ning Qianqian, known as the Little Medicine Immortal, found herself bewildered by the situation, having perused ancient texts without discovering the source of the unfamiliar energy. It's fine. Just take a moment to rest, Qin Lang reassured gently, waving his hand. I was already gravely injured. Encountering that previous situation triggered my body's latent potential, naturally leading to adverse effects. Fortunately, I had already consumed some healing elixirs, and I am currently in the process of self-healing. There is no cause for alarm. The negative impact this time was evidently less severe than the last. Thanks to his prior precautions and the system's self-healing capabilities, he would be restored to health in no time. After adjusting his breathing, Qin Lang gradually began to calm down. Observing those gathered around him, Luo Qingyu, Ning Qianqian, Shirakawa, and Junzi, alongside the reincarnation who had not departed from the scene of battle, occasionally casting glances in their direction. With a wry smile, he remarked, What are you all doing? Why the tension? Are you so worried that I might perish? You scared us senseless. You suddenly coughed up a mouthful of blood. Of course we thought you were in dire straits. Ning Qianqian rolled her eyes, her words laced with sarcasm. Yet her expression was clouded with concern. Luo Qingyu, feeling a twinge of discomfort, remarked, You should not be so reckless. It is far too perilous. A moment's carelessness could lead to your demise. Qin Lang gazed intently into Luo Qingyu's eyes, asking, Are you suggesting that I should have restrained myself? In that moment, the genetic warriors were overwhelming, even contemplating you. Should I simply stand by and watch? He continued, his voice rising steadily, even in death. I shall not permit anyone to demean my woman. His tone bore no trace of vulnerability. Rather, it resembled a fervent interrogation that made Luo Qingyu avert her gaze from his burning stare, realizing her own naivety. Qin Lang's voice resonated powerfully, audible even to the distant reincarnation. Seizing the moment Luo Qingyu lowered her head, he turned his gaze toward reincarnation, locking eyes with it. Instinctively, reincarnation averted its gaze, as though caught in wrongdoing. It hastily leapt down from the tree branch and fled into the depths of the forest. Taking a deep breath, Qin Lang raised his hand with a smile, stating that the matter was settled and did not warrant further entanglement. I am aware of my own condition. You need not worry excessively. After a moment of contemplation, Luo Qingyu found herself bitterly amused. She could comprehend Qin Lang's decision to spare the formidable members of the Shadow Alliance and the Western Demon Extermination Society. After all, none wished to oppose these two organizations. However, she questioned why he had chosen to eliminate the Genetic Warrior instead. The Genetic Warriors were backed by the Beautiful Nation, a far more daunting adversary than the two organizations. Qin Lang's actions could only provoke the Beautiful Nation's ire and potentially invite deadly repercussions. Listening to Qin Lang's inquiries, Luo Qingyu felt a sudden clarity. Ultimately, it was anger that had clouded judgment, leading to the slaying of the very person who should have been spared. In the past, she would have deemed Qin Lang's actions impulsive and thoughtless regarding their consequences. Yet now, inexplicably, a peculiar sensation blossomed within her, a hint of joy even. Chapter 355. The Misfortunate Chun Fan. Completely socially ruined. This is a petal from the Tianshan Snow Lotus, infused with an abundance of life essence, possessing immeasurable healing properties. You should present it to the master of hidden assassination. After all, she is your junior sister. Qin Lang extracted a petal from the Tianshan Snow Lotus and offered it to Luo Qingyu, pulling her from her self-imposed reverie. His words were imbued with tenderness, exuding an endearing affection. More than that, he felt a genuine happiness in his generosity. After all, how could he resist Luo Qingyu's coy demeanor, especially after witnessing Reincarnation's retreat, which was devoid of hostility or murderous intent? Such moments were indeed bountiful rewards. Very well, Luo Qingyu gazed into Qin Lang's eyes, swallowing her words of gratitude, before turning and making her way towards Su Chan with the lotus petal in hand. Crouched by the side, Ning Qianqian propped her chin on her hands, her large eyes fixed on Qin Lang as she softly expressed her jealousy. Why are you so kind to my senior sister? Just because I am her junior. You even gifted the Tianshan Snow Lotus, a sacred herb for healing. What about me? Is there anything for me? You saw it earlier. Here I am, facing 3 guardians alone. If it weren't for my little skills, I would have been crushed by those 3 long ago. My strength pales in comparison to my senior sister's. While it's fine being together, what if one day we part ways and I become the target of my enemies? Wouldn't I be doomed? What do you mean? What do you want? Qin Lang asked, furrowing his brows in suspicion. Ning Qianqian pouted. We're all comrades here. Is there really a need to keep secrets? My 4th senior sister was once the leader of the assassin rankings, far surpassing that blood-red mandala. Yet now, the blood-red mandala has grown so powerful that it can overpower my 4th senior sister. If I hadn't used the softbone powder last time, I would have been defeated. Relying on daily accumulation, strength doesn't improve so swiftly. The blood-red mandala's enhancement must be related to you, right? It's obvious. She's had her eye on this for a long time. Why toil away for improvement when there are quicker methods? Wouldn't it be more pleasant to take it easy? Upon hearing this, Shierakana, who had remained silent, couldn't help but cast a fervent gaze at Qin Lang. She was even more eager to enhance her strength, fully aware of the miraculous body-enhancing potions Qin Lang possessed. After a moment of contemplation, Qin Lang slowly replied, some things aren't as extraordinary as you think. Firstly, they can have negative side effects and impose significant burdens on the body. Secondly, there are limits to enhancement. However, both of you do indeed have potential for further growth. We can discuss it more when we return. Meanwhile, Chun Fan, having fled into the dense forest, dragged his severely injured body to a slightly open area. The immense burden on his body left him unable to proceed, and he collapsed onto the ground. Gazing at the heap of severed limbs and corpses around him, he exhaled a breath of frustration. The most dangerous places are often the safest. Besides, with such a vast expanse of forest, how could anyone happen to pass by here after escaping? Such coincidences simply do not exist. Just as he pondered this, he heard footsteps not far away, causing his nose to flare in frustration. Yet, burdened by his injuries, he could hardly hope to fight anyone. He could only smear himself with the blood of the corpses nearby, hiding within the closest pile, holding his breath and pretending to be dead. Tell me, if we were to capture that fleeing Dragon Kingdom person and secretly deliver them to young Master Qin after slaying them, would we not obtain the antidote? I have always been aware that the one who escaped surely has a deep-seated enmity with young Master Qin. There is great animosity between them. Had it not been for the presence of those women surrounding Qin, he might have already taken action against the one who fled. It is unwise for Qin to act directly. Thus, we shall assist him. If we can avoid those women and eliminate this threat, we may even be rewarded. The assailants who had consumed Shierakana's exclusive poison did not immediately depart, accustomed to living in the shadows and enjoying their freedom. The realization that their lives were now at the mercy of another was deeply unsettling. They sought any means to lift this constraint. No need for further contemplation. With Qin's capabilities, it is impossible for him to let the fugitive escape, since he has not issued further demands. It would be prudent for us not to take matters into our own hands. Should we invoke Qin's ire, our hard-won lives would be forfeit. How frustrating. After years of navigating the black market, this is the most humiliating moment, especially considering Qin's formidable strength. Even together, we would be courting death. The desire to capture that fleeing individual from the Dragon Kingdom and exact vengeance grows within me. Never mind. Let us depart. The stench of death here is unbearable, and all I yearn for is a hot bath. The few assailants glanced toward the nearby open space littered with corpses and turned away. One by one, 4 or 5 strong figures from the black market made their exit. After a considerable time had passed, with silence enveloping the scene, Chun Fan finally lifted his head from the heap of bodies, inhaling the fresh air with great gulps. Damn Qin Lang, I shall remember this grudge. This enmity shall not be forgotten. I, Chun Fan, will not rest until we are at odds. One day, you will pay in blood. He roared, heedless of his grievous wounds. The pent-up rage within him threatened to consume him if not released. He had escaped, merely to preserve his life and await the day of vengeance. Yet who could have foreseen that even upon fleeing Qin Lang's domain, he would be pursued by those black market strongmen eager to curry favor with him? Driven to desperation, he was forced to smear himself with the filthy blood of others, masquerading as a corpse. Such a profound humiliation. Chun Fan had never endured such disgrace. What misfortune! What utter misfortune! Chun Fan's chest heaved violently. Ever since encountering Qin Lang, he felt his luck had turned sour. He had been interrupted during his breakthrough by a Jin warrior, and now, on the path to escape, he faced black market enforcers intent on killing him to please Qin Lang. Was it possible that all the world's misfortunes had conspired to befall him alone? No, that cannot be. This is merely a coincidence. There shall be no next time. Gurgle. At that moment, a strange and urgent sound emanated from Chun Fan's belly. The aftermath of Ning Qianqian's machinations had now taken effect. Gurgle, gurgle. Chun Fan's complexion turned ashen, a sudden wave of intense abdominal pain engulfing him, rendering his body weak and feeble, exacerbating his already grave injuries. Why? Why was this happening? How could he be seized by such an unexpected stomachache at this moment? And why could he not quell the overwhelming urge? He had not indulged in any questionable food prior to arriving here. Moreover, given his physical resilience and certain resistance to toxins, there was no way that anything he consumed could lead to such disgraceful discomfort. What could have triggered this unexpected ailment? Was it truly a stroke of misfortune? Did even fate conspire against him? Gritting his teeth, Chun Fan raised his gaze to the inky sky, his entire being trembling, fists clenched tightly. He endeavored to console himself. No, this could not be mere misfortune. Perhaps this was, in fact, a twist of good fortune. He could not allow himself to remain ensnared by hatred, aware that his current state was skewed, clouded by animosity. His resentment towards Qin Lang was already consuming him, and now it seemed even the heavens bore a grudge against him. If he continued down this path, he would surely succumb to darkness. He would no longer be himself. He must extricate himself from this state of hatred, allowing it to provide him with pressure and motivation, yet not permitting it to fully drive him. Looking from a different perspective, this might truly not be a stroke of misfortune, but rather a fortunate turn. Had this malady struck while the group of black market strongmen were still present, it would surely have drawn their attention. Whether he would have faced death or merely a severe beating upon capture remained a grave concern for his already weakened state. Perhaps at last, fate had granted him a unique reprieve. With this thought in mind, Chun Fan gradually subdued the intense emotions of hatred, clutching his abdomen as he surveyed the surrounding heap of corpses, making his way toward the dense forest. However, just a few steps in, his stomach churned violently once more, forcing him to crouch down and prepare to relieve himself on the spot. Less than 100 meters away, within another pile of corpses, a faint stirring occurred. Chun Erden cautiously swallowed, having crouched for an indeterminate length of time without encountering any solitary strong individuals. At last, he had spotted a group approaching, but they seemed to be already under Qin Shao's command, even aiming to assist the young master in dealing with fleeing adversaries. How could he possibly make a move now? They were all his comrades. He almost revealed himself. Had it not been for the lingering grievances this group held against Qin Shao, he certainly would have abandoned the notion of remaining hidden. The stench was unbearable, permeated by the putrid scent of decay. After the black market strongman departed, he refrained from immediately exposing his location, having heard some peculiar sounds beforehand, deciding to remain crouched a while longer. Finally, just now he had the opportunity to strike. Dreadful Chun Fan. Was he truly intent on taking action against Qin Shao, seeking vengeance? Heavens! This must be the Dragon Kingdom individual who escaped. The one with a deep-seated grudge against young Master Qin. Fortuitously, his cautious nature prevented him from becoming complacent. Otherwise, he might have missed this golden opportunity. If it were not for the likes of him, Chun Erden, who lurks in the shadows of eternity, he would have remained unnoticed, even without showing himself. The faintest sound would suffice for him to discern the source. The art of marksmanship is indeed a delicate craft. Why has the sound ceased? Chun Erden, buried amidst the corpses, had just ignited his murderous intent, intending to assist young Master Qin with a troublesome matter, when he suddenly furrowed his brow, pondering. Just moments ago, Chun Fan was incessantly disparaging young Master Qin. Why now is there an eerie silence? The only sound that permeates the air is the faint rustling of shoes against the grass. Unaware of Chun Fan's physique or stature, he found himself incapable of pinpointing Chun Fan's location based solely on the subtle sounds of footsteps. He had but a solitary chance to fire. Should he miss, it would undoubtedly alert his adversary, potentially leading to his own demise. An opponent who dares to confront young Master Qin must possess formidable strength, capable of easily overpowering him. He could not afford to be careless. Speak, speak, just utter another word, and I shall discern your whereabouts. Chun Erden, nestled among the corpses, gripped his pistol, cautiously extending the barrel. His reflexes were razor-sharp, every nerve in his body taut with anticipation. Even the slightest sound could allow him to triangulate the position. Were it not for the risk of causing a commotion by lifting his head from the pile of bodies, he would be eager to peer out and ascertain Chun Fan's actions, wondering why he had suddenly fallen silent and remained motionless. As Chun Erden focused intently on the faint sound around him, an unexpected, piercing noise erupted, a sound reminiscent of Chun Fan pinching his lips, releasing an exhalation from both sides. At last, he had found his mark. Chun Erden's eyes sparkled with determination, aligning the pistol's muzzle towards the source of the sound. Bang! Ah! Chun Fan screamed in terror. By the heavens, I shall not rest until vengeance is mine. With a series of rhythmic, melodious pops, Chun Fan, clutching his injured form, dared not turn to confront the shooter behind him. One hand pressed against his wounded rear. He fled, stumbling away in haste. Soon after, Luo Qingyu and others arrived at this crucial juncture. Come forth, young Master Qin called out, observing Chun Erden extricating himself from the pile of bodies, and questioned with suspicion, what transpired just now? I believe I heard Chun Fan's voice. Chun Erden gritted his teeth. Young Master Qin, you cannot fathom the depths of this Chun Fan's wickedness. He audaciously proclaimed his intent to dismember you, vowing that he would repay today's humiliation 100-fold once he found the opportunity. Having fired his weapon, it seemed the man was still alive. Shouldn't he embellish Chun Fan's words a touch? Did you fire? Qin Lang asked in a low voice. Chun Erden nodded, asserting, You can scold me, Chun Erden, but you cannot insult Qin Shao. If I don't shoot, it would be disrespectful considering your high salary. Qin Lang took a deep breath, cast a fierce glance at Chun Erden, and then turned to Luo Qingyu, bitterly remarking, I never expected that Chun Erden lay in ambush here for so long, ensnaring your junior disciple. Luo Qingyu shook her head, saying do not mind it. Chun Fan brought this upon himself with his reckless words, provoking the ire of your subordinates. Furthermore, I just heard his voice. He should still be alive. Nearby, Ning Qianqian, who had been listening, turned around, covering her nose, and pointed at a large pool of blood and some scattered filth on the ground, disdainfully declaring, on a cellular level, Chun Fan is alive, but on a life level, Chun Fan is already dead. Socially dead. Look, Chun Fan has been reduced to this. Chapter 356. The solitary Chun Fan, it truly is a stroke of luck. Ning Qianqian glanced at the filthy ground, covering her mouth and nose, and quickly retreated, unable to restrain herself from murmuring to Qin Lang. I saw that Chun Fan was brimming with confidence, nearly breaking through. Concerned he might pose a threat to you later, I deliberately administered a drug to diminish most of his strength. Who knew that the situation I envisioned would not materialize, and instead, this dose of medicine would spare his life. She cast a sidelong glance at Chun Erden. This fellow is supposed to be adept at discerning sounds. Who could have guessed he would be so ineffective? He can't even distinguish between a sound emerging from his mouth and one escaping from his rear. Qin Xiao. This is a misunderstanding. It is absolutely a misunderstanding. Chun Erden lamented. That rascal Chun Fan incessantly spoke ill of you and vowed to seek vengeance. I thought anyone who could be your rival must possess considerable strength, so I dared not expose myself, let alone raise my head. Who could have predicted this fellow would falter in such a moment? Tears of grievance nearly fell from Chun Erden's eyes as he hurried to defend himself. Enough. It has nothing to do with you. Let us consider this matter closed for now. We shall return to the bar, and if there are further issues, we can discuss them later, Qin Lang said, feeling secretly pleased but outwardly dismissive, waving his hand to suppress the situation. At that moment, a system prompt sounded once more. Ding! Luck value of the fated child Chun Fan has decreased by 1,000 points. Congratulations to the host for gaining 20,000 villain points. Ding! The fated child Chun Fan is extremely enraged. Congratulations to the host for gaining 10,000 villain points. Ding! The fated child Chun Fan has become a solitary warrior. Congratulations to the host for gaining 100,000 villain points. The group retraced their steps, and the dispatched elite shinobi and snipers gradually received news and returned. Although this campaign ended in a resounding victory, it was not without casualties. 3 elite shinobi of the Dark Blade perished. However, not a single sniper fell. Each was a master of self-preservation. At the very moment the Dark Blade's elite shinobi engaged the enemy, the snipers began to conceal themselves. Not only did they all survive, but from their positions, they also eliminated numerous foes. The number of black market strongmen taken down by these snipers exceeded 30, despite the initial 100-strong crowd being unable to affect Su Chan or any other life during the Great Battle. The addition of over 30 more individuals might very well lead to a dramatic turnaround in the situation. Upon locating a well-concealed off-road vehicle, the group set off towards the heart of Kellen City with great momentum. On the way, Junzi, behind the wheel, wore a grin that seemed almost too expansive, as the comrades he had brought along remained unscathed amidst such chaos. His fortune was nothing short of astounding. Yet, while some rejoiced, others were engulfed in sorrow. Shirakane's countenance was persistently as dark as a stormy sea. These elite members of the Dark Blade were her own trusted core, each one a significant asset. With every loss, her heart ached, and this time, 3 of her esteemed shinobi had perished. Was she discontented? Did she feel that the losses incurred by the Dark Blade were insurmountable? Qin Lang cast a fleeting glance at her, noticing her icy demeanor, and could not help but place a gentle hand upon her shoulder, offering a light massage. However, as he continued, he sensed that the situation had grown somewhat inappropriate. Shirakana bit her lip, her cheeks flushed, her gaze lowered as she softly shook her head. Please forgive me, Qin Xiao. These shinobi of the Dark Blade are my esteemed predecessors in the Koga school. Each has bestowed immense grace upon me, and without their guidance, I would not have survived the chaotic circumstances in Kellen until today. Yet, she found solace in the notion that assisting Qin Xiao was a worthy cause, and thus, the sacrifices of her predecessors were not in vain. She bore no resentment, only a tinge of melancholy. I have witnessed the efforts of the Dark Blade. Look at you. Your eyes are red, and you still claim not to be unhappy, Qin Lang remarked, gazing at Kanna's teary eyes with a pang of sympathy. And instinctively he began to rub her reddened orbs gently. After all, Shirakana had become his beloved, even for the well-off citizens of Sakura country. One must not exert too much pressure. Moderation is key. Qin Xiao, she murmured, suppressing her awkwardness, leaning weakly against him, casting a glance at Junzi, who was driving in the front. She leaned closer, her voice a soft complaint. There are still others present. Clearing his throat, Qin Lang called out to the front, Junzi, how much longer until we arrive? Without turning his head, Junzi sat upright and replied, Young master, is still quite a ways off. We have barely begun our journey. The off-road vehicle could not take off on the spot. Even Junzi was unable to accelerate instantaneously and return to the Dark Blade bar in a flash. He could only reluctantly ease off the gas, waiting as one vehicle after another overtook them, while he instructed his brothers over the intercom to continue onward. Not long after, Junzi's vehicle fell to the rear of the convoy. It was only when the silhouettes of the vehicles ahead were no longer visible that he pressed the brakes, exited the vehicle, and walked around it, shouting without lifting his gaze, Young master, the vehicle has become stuck in a pit and cannot move. I will fetch some large stones to remedy the situation. Without waiting for Qin Lang's response, Junzi dashed off towards the distant thicket. Hiss! Not 2 minutes had passed when Qin Lang began to feel the discomfort of the belt tightening around his waist, which was kindly loosened a bit by Ishihara Kanai. Immediately, he tilted his head back, resting his hands on the armrests of the chair, and pleasantly closed his eyes in a state of blissful relaxation. Was it a coincidence? On the way here, there was not just Ishihara Kanai in the off-road vehicle. On the return journey, they were joined by Su Chan, who bore grave injuries, necessitating the attentive care of the divine healer Ning Qianqian. As the senior sister, Luo Qingyu could not excuse herself either. Thus, only one woman remained in Qin Lang's vehicle. 3 women without water to drink, 2 women fighting while drinking, and 1 woman drinking vigorously with her head bowed. He felt a wave of emotion. Pondering how Fanzi was faring, transformed into a solitary warrior, he wondered if his body might undergo any drastic changes. Such concern weighed heavily on him. During this journey, he had extracted at least several 100,000 points of villainous destiny from Chen Fan, with the matter of becoming a solitary warrior yielding a staggering 100,000 points. What a monumental reward. It was enough to incite envy. Qin Lang began to worry for Chen Fan. The notion of solitude was no trivial matter, as it could easily lead to an imbalance in physical weight. What if, in the future, one side became heavier than the other, affecting normal life? This wouldn't he do? He had to devise a plan. After all, he was the junior disciple of Luo Qingyu, and as a brother-in-law, he could not simply watch as Fan Zi descended into ruin. He had to find a way to transform him into a noble warrior. Suddenly, as Qin Lang was consumed with concern for Chen Fan, a chill coursed through his body, rising from the soles of his feet to his spine. After a considerable time, he regained his composure, lightly patting Ishihara Kanai on the back of her head, feeling a wave of reflection wash over him. Goodness! While Fanzi had yet to achieve nobility, he himself had already elevated. Chapter 357. Lin Youchu's High-End Maneuvers Ding. Congratulations, host. You have received 1,000 points of villainous destiny. Ding. Congratulations, host. You have received 10,002 points of villainous destiny. At the stroke of midnight, Junzi drove the off-road vehicle back to the central city of Kalon. As they were all familiar faces, their speeds varied little, and the group arrived at the Dark Blade Bar without significant delay. You're injured? Upon disembarking, blood-colored Mandala approached, her brow furrowing at the sight of his blood-stained attire. She turned to confront Luo Qingyu and Ning Qianqian, who were walking over from a distance, demanding, "What happened? You went to rescue your fellow disciples, yet not a trace of blood can be seen on you, while Qin Lang bears such grave injuries. Is this your attitude?" Ning Qianqian was seething with indignation, yearning to confront blood-colored Mandala in a fierce battle. However, the woman's words held some validity. Indeed, neither she nor her senior sister had sustained serious injuries. Their clothes remained pristine, while Qin Lang appeared extraordinarily disheveled. Luo Qingyu wore a look of guilt, observing Qin Lang's pale complexion, which seemed even worse than when they had departed the dense forest. The heart felt as if it were imbibing bitter wine, a profound ache enveloping the soul. It seemed that Qin Lang's injuries were far from healed. His nonchalance before departing was merely a fade to assuage her worries. After enduring such tumultuous events, the pretense could no longer be sustained. I owe Qin Lang an immense debt of gratitude. I shall bear all your reproaches, and from now on, wherever Qin Lang may require assistance, I shall not hesitate in the slightest. Luo Qingyu solemnly vowed. The blood-red Mandala paid no heed to such assurances. She was acutely aware that Qin Lang was injured, and gravely so, were it not for considering Qin Lang's feelings. She would have charged forward to deliver a couple of resounding slaps to those 2 sisters. They had agreed to safeguard him while sharing a vehicle. Yet this was the outcome? Who was truly protecting whom? Just as she prepared to continue her tirade, the sight of Shiera Kana seated in the off-road vehicle brought a sudden realization of something amiss, perhaps detected in the faint blush upon Shahara's cheeks. Young Master Qin, if all is well, I shall take my leave, Shiera murmured, unable to withstand the blood-red Mandala's scrutinizing gaze, and awkwardly made her way towards the bar without a backward glance. Something was indeed amiss. The expression on Shiera Kana's face seemed oddly familiar to the blood-red Mandala, stirring a sense of doubt within her. However, one person was certain that there was more to the story. Lin Youchu, who had remained downstairs at the bar with Mu Yuyin since Qin Lang's departure, rushed over upon hearing the commotion. The sight of Qin Lang, bloodied and battered, sent a shock through her. while Mu Yuyan's eyes glistened with unshed tears. Yet, upon seeing Shirokana disembark, Lin Yuchu discerned various underlying intricacies and promptly nudged her tearful friend. Yuyan, stop crying. Look at that cherry blossom girl. Doesn't her gait seem familiar? Though Qin Lang might be injured, he was certainly not in grave danger. Otherwise, how could he have engaged in such antics? Mu Yuyan gazed at Shirokana's retreating figure, scrutinizing her awkward demeanor, and felt an inkling of recognition. It seemed reminiscent of the peculiar, bashful postures Lin Yuchu often assumed when Qin Lang visited her home. Playing coy with me? This cherry blossom girl is still a bit too naive. It's simply infidelity, after all. In this realm, I am a veritable matriarch. Yuyan, unless I mention it. How would you know that I was hiding beneath the tablecloth while you fed Qin Lang's soup? And if I didn't say anything, how would you realize that beneath that mountain of soap bubbles while you bathed, there was indeed a man? Little Dao Air, these are merely the remnants of past exploits. Shirokana's skills are woefully inadequate. She fled in disarray when being observed, inadvertently confessing her secrets. Unlike me, who can execute high-level maneuvers even in front of my dearest friend. Do not weep any longer. Your tears have rendered you a sight to behold. Times have changed, and competitors abound. Lin Yuchu inhaled deeply, casting her gaze upon the crimson mandrake and the women surrounding Qin Lang. With elegant strides, she approached him, draping her arm over his shoulder, softly murmuring, "Come, I shall escort you back to your room. Why should I return with you?" Ning Qian questioned. Discomfort evident upon encountering her rival, Lin Yuchu. Similarly, the crimson mandrake, who had previously been at odds with Ning Qian, directed a look of discontent towards her. The atmosphere had been charged with tension between the two parties, only to be disrupted by Lin Yuchu's sudden bid for dominance over the spoils. What a predicament! Observing Lin Yuchu cornered from all sides, even her close friend Mu Yuyan felt a pang of anxiety for her. Yuchu, you're being too reckless. You have prematurely revealed your true intentions. How could you possibly extricate yourself from the onslaught of the crimson mandrake and Ning Qian? Seeing her flustered friend, Lin Yuchu internally scoffed, though her exterior betrayed none of her thoughts. Her expression shifted from neutrality to fury in an instant. Confronted by the formidable presence of her adversaries, she boldly advanced, vehemently rebuking, "If you do not wish to accompany me, do you intend to follow them instead? Have you considered whether you possess the capability to do so? All you do is bicker. Have you not noticed that Qin Lang is grievously injured? Each of you ought to be supporting one another rather than apportioning blame. Are these matters truly of such significance that we must designate a scapegoat? Does Qin Lang's well-being not warrant your concern? Do you find solace in standing out here in the night air?" As Lin Yuchu's agitation mounted, her chest rose and fell with fervor, her movements animated, occasionally brushing against Qin Lang's side, a subtle gesture intended to placate him, urging him to remain silent and not disrupt her performance. Ultimately, observing Qin Lang's silence ignited her fury. She boldly traced her finger across the faces of the crimson mandrake and Ning Qian, admonishing them. What is paramount is Qin Lang's health. Reflect upon where your errors lie. Perhaps you think you are concerned for him, yet at times, your priorities are utterly reversed. With a haughty snort, Lin Yuchu disregarded the gazes of the crimson mandrake, Ning Qian, and Luo Qingyu, lifting Qin Lang and steering him towards Mu Yuyan. Noticing Qin Lang's inclination to glance back at the crimson mandrake and the others, she quickly tightened her grip on the arm she was supporting, wishing to draw him even closer to her heart. Do not gaze any longer. What they possess, Mu Yuyan and I possess in abundance. Lin Yuchu cast a flirtatious glance at Qin Lang, loosening her collar slightly, allowing his arm to sway precariously within her embrace. Sighing deeply, Qin Lang reluctantly acknowledged that despite his inner resistance, there were matters to attend to. However, he could not disregard the wishes of the women present. Thus, he addressed Luo Qingyu and the others, suggesting that any pressing issues could be discussed the following day, especially considering that his second junior sister was gravely injured and required someone to keep watch over her that night. He retrieved 2 cleansing pills from his pocket and tossed them to Luo Qingyu, explaining, "These are elixirs capable of purifying the essence and marrow. While they may not significantly aid in healing, they are better than nothing. Moreover, these pills can eliminate impurities from a body, enhancing one's constitution and elevating it to a higher level. You and Su Chan should each take one. In comparison to a constitution-enhancing potion, these cleansing pills would prove more beneficial for Luo Qingyu and Su Chan, without any restrictions. What about me? What do I get? Nothing at all? Ning kiang kiang potet, feeling slightly aggrieved. After all, she had risked her life and even resorted to drastic measures against a fellow disciple for Qin Lang's safety. Will there be no reward at all? Let's discuss your situation tomorrow. Your constitution has not yet reached its limit, so you may still take the potion. Qin Lang explained before being supported by Lin Yuchu and Mu Yuyan, who escorted him to the bar. Ning Qianqian sulked, glancing at her senior sister and murmuring softly. Senior sister, look at Lin Yuchu's smug expression. She is not as righteous as she claims. It's clear she is trying to take advantage of the situation. Luo Qingyu chuckled softly and patted her junior sister's head. Stop overthinking. We were indeed at fault earlier, and Lin Yuchu was not wrong. Furthermore, given Qin Lang's current condition, still recovering from his injuries, even if Lin Yuchu had ulterior motives, it would be of no consequence. Senior sister, are you genuinely naive or merely pretending? Ning Qianqian rolled her eyes dramatically. Qin Lang is incapacitated, but Lin Yuchu and Mu Yuyan are uninjured. Can't they move on their own? Meanwhile, the solitary return of the reincarnation to the city of Kolan was considerably slower than that of Qin Lang and the others, having only just arrived home. She furrowed her brow, unable to relax. Sitting at the edge of her bed, Qin Lang's visage continually flashed through her mind. What could he possibly mean? Did he recognize her identity and know she was the one who attempted to assassinate him that fateful night? When she had previously faced humiliation, his words had been far from gentle, threatening her life at every turn. Had she not completely lost the ability to resist that night, she might have already become a cold corpse. Since then, she had had no further contact with Qin Lang. Why, then, was he now treating her with such care? The recent battle against the senior judge of the Western Demon-Slaying Society had left her at a distinct disadvantage, compounded by the attention of Jin warriors. Surely, death was imminent. To be slain so easily would mean the end of everything, erasing any future attempts on Qin Lang's life. His swift shifts from cold indifference to gentle protection left her utterly bewildered, and she found herself grappling with a bizarre thought. Is it possible that the moment Qin Lang laid eyes on her, he had already harbored feelings for her? Could it be that her previous capture by the blood-red mandala, where she endured unspeakable humiliation yet was spared from death, was due to Qin Lang's covert influence, causing the blood-red mandala to refrain from killing her out of jealousy? The blood-red mandala, so obedient to Qin Lang's commands, must have cherished him deeply. Upon realizing Qin Lang's tender sentiments towards her, it was only natural for her to act out in a fit of rage. In a mind of reincarnation, thoughts swirled chaotically like a tangled mass. In truth, she could not have developed romantic feelings for Qin Lang upon their first encounter. She was far more inclined towards her junior brother, Chun Fan. Yet, the words uttered by that junior brother were utterly vile, akin to tearing open her heart and carving out her very essence, leaving behind deep, bloody scars and mercilessly sprinkling salt upon them. Despite all her flaws, reincarnation felt that Chun Fan had no right to cast judgment upon her. What right did he have? Who did Chun Fan think he was? The resentment within reincarnation towards Chun Fan surged to an unparalleled zenith. Following the volcanic eruption of hatred came a profound sense of loss and a suffocating solitude enveloped in despair. In that abyss of darkness, where not even the faintest glimmer of light could penetrate, she reluctantly acknowledged that she no longer possessed the purity she once had. She had become tainted. A sensation arose within her, as if she were inherently unclean, unworthy of anyone's earnest trust. Once this feeling took root, it festered and grew, prompting her to devalue her own existence. Such emotions, in someone as taciturn as reincarnation, took hold and flourished as if they had taken root. Even when faced with Chun Fan, she could only muster a cold expression to rebuff his presence, overwhelmed by a sense of inferiority. However, tonight, Qin Lang's attentive care bestowed upon her a rare warmth that melted the ice encasing her heart. This sensation seemed to alleviate her solitude, making her feel less cold and less sullied when alone. Perhaps it was the presence of the senior sister and junior sister by Qin Lang's side, inciting a sense of blind conformity, or perhaps this was the path to her redemption. Since she could not resist, should she silently savor the moment? Gradually, her thoughts began to shift in a different direction. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. How could I entertain such foolish notions about that scoundrel? He is nothing but a villain. And one day, I shall rend him to pieces. A sudden clarity struck reincarnation, as she quickly rejected this absurd notion, vehemently scolding herself aloud. If only Qin Lang were here at the Dark Blade Bar, he would undoubtedly hear her vehement denial. Slander. An absolute slander. Was it easy for him? Despite being gravely injured, he continues to endure relentless torment. What is this nonsense about fitness yoga and the invincible Thomas spin? Already weakened, he is subjected to the whims of the little demon, Lin Yuchu, who toys with him in endless variations. His body can scarcely withstand it. Nevertheless, he has not transgressed against a woman's will. How could he possibly be a villain? Chapter 359. The Significance of Heritage Injured. Qin Lang finds himself in a luxurious suite of the Dark Blade Bar, unaware that at this moment, reincarnation oscillates between contemplating its virtues and its vices. Even if he were aware, he would be indifferent. This time is reserved for reincarnation to engage in self-reflection. It is a process, and each individual emerges from it with different outcomes. Some may solidify their intent to kill him, while others may silently, through subtle influences, embark on the path of enjoying life. Whether one lives or dies ultimately hinges on the choices made within. In this regard, Qin Lang is not overly troubled. He has done all that is necessary. He will not waste excessive time on reincarnation. Had it not been for that night when reincarnation disguised itself as the blood-red mandala, he would have dispatched it without hesitation. With his eyes closed in meditation, Qin Lang suddenly senses Lin Yuchu approaching. Ding! Congratulations, host. You have gained 1,000 points of Destiny Villain value. Ding! Congratulations, host. You have gained 10,002 points of Destiny Villain value. Ding! Congratulations, host. You have gained 10,007 points of Destiny Villain value. The following morning, Qin Lang stands by the bed and glances at Mu Yuyan, who is sleeping with one eye open and one eye closed. Amused, he asks, awake? Are you hungry? Would you like to rest a bit longer in the room while I go upstairs to prepare breakfast for you? Mu Yuyan shows signs of wanting to get dressed. Rather than having someone from Darkblade serve her, she believes attending to Qin Lang's needs herself embodies the essence of a devoted wife. Just bring up 2 breakfasts. I won't eat, Lin Yuchu interjects, waving her hand as she drinks a glass of warm water from the bedside table, rinsing her mouth in the process. You. Mu Yuyan gazes at her dear friend, suppressing an uneasy feeling within. What's wrong with me? Is my not eating breakfast a burden to you? Lin Yuchu rolls her eyes and pouts, then turns to Qin Xian, softly inquiring, is your body feeling better? If something like last night happens again, let Luo Qingyu and Ning Qianqian handle it. We need not involve ourselves. That is their sex affair. Why should you join in on the chaos? You sustained such serious injuries. It's hardly worth it. All right, I know you care, so spare the dramatics. Qin Lang affectionately ruffles Lin Yuchu's hair before adding, you two stay here and rest. I must step out for a moment. There are matters to attend to. With that, he departs the luxurious suite without waiting for Mu Yuyan's response. Lin Yuchu points at the cup on the bedside table, puzzled. I drank water, and I even rinsed my mouth. She gazed at her best friend, who wore a perplexed expression, and sat at the head of the bed, gently patting her head. Yuyan, could you perhaps refrain from being so naïve? When observing situations, one must delve into the essence rather than merely skimming the surface. Some matters are not as intolerable as you might think. Furthermore, in such circumstances, the lesser the burden you carry, the more likely you are to evoke that sense of tenderness in a man. Do you know what kind of girl captivates a man like Qin Lang, who possesses such an illustrious background? Mu Yuyan felt a pang of uncertainty. After all, young and beautiful women tend to attract men's unwavering attention. Regardless of whether they are 18 or 80, they all favor those who are 18. How superficial. Lin Yuchu shook her head. You only perceive what your eyes can see, yet you remain oblivious to the deeper truths. A man as powerful and well-connected as Qin Lang does not require a woman's assistance. To put it bluntly, with just a slight application of his means, he could effortlessly resolve any situation. Your aspiration is to expand and strengthen Mu Ren International, to create brilliance in order to assist Qin Lang. In reality, the most you might gain is a mere compliment, and you would be exhausted to the bone. Unlike me, I choose to do nothing. I am content to be a flower nurtured in a vase. Mu Yuyan listened, grasping only fragments of understanding, yet she found it challenging to accept. However, judging by the results, it seemed Lin Yuchu's approach was quite effective. At the very least, Qin Lang's demeanor was subtly shifting. If Lin Yuchu were not her close friend, and if they were not together, she might have already lost Qin Lang's affection to Lin Yuchu. Chapter 360. An encounter with Chun Fan and a declaration to rebirth. Meanwhile, at a bar where Qin Lang was having breakfast, he had only just received the news. Last night, the leader of the Hidden Kill, Su Chan, did not stay at the Dark Blade headquarters, but instead returned to the Hidden Kill S base overnight. Luo Qingyu and Ning Qianqian naturally accompanied Su Chan as she left. For Su Chan was gravely injured and required both treatment and care. Young master, it seems that Miss Luo is attempting to persuade the leader of Hidden Kill to entrust you with the management of the organization, Junzi quietly reminded him. However, the leader appeared somewhat reluctant, which is why Miss Luo chose to accompany her. Miss Luo also mentioned that she would like you to visit when you have the opportunity. After sending the location to the young master's phone, Junzi hurriedly departed, feeling like a thorn in the side as he spoke well of Luo Qingyu in front of the blood-red mandala, fearing for his own safety. What else with a stern face? Am I not allowed to go? Then I simply shan't, Qin Lang remarked playfully, sipping his millet porridge and glancing at the blood-red mandala. In a foreign land, the taste of millet porridge reminiscent of the Dragon Kingdom felt rather delightful. The blood-red mandala shook her head. Just go if you wish. Why do you need to ask me? It's not as if it's some other matter. Do you perceive me as a foolish woman incapable of discerning anything? You are here to develop your influence, are you not? The formidable organization known as Insha, one that could rival all those you currently command, is certainly not one to be overlooked. Although I harbor some discomfort towards Luo Qingyu, should she assist you in subduing Insha, I can reluctantly concede that she possesses a modicum of utility. The blood-colored mandala delicately pinched a small amount between her thumb and index finger, gesturing emphatically, just this little bit. Truly, she is deserving of being called my little top. Intrigued, Qin Lang grasped the wrist of the blood-colored mandala and drew her into his embrace, allowing her to perch upon his lap. He rested his chin upon her shoulder, inhaling the fragrance of her hair, taking a deep breath. What little top? Why not call me by my full name, blood-colored mandala? All right, mandala will suffice. But you are indeed my little top. Qin Lang repeated this moniker. The blood-colored mandala wished to argue. Yet Qin Lang's firm hold around her waist rendered her incapable of focusing on anything else. She felt utterly weakened. Fine, let it be. She would accept being called Little Top. What did it matter how she was addressed? Anyone daring to call her out would face dire consequences. After a brief moment of intimacy, Qin Lang bid farewell to the blood-colored mandala and set off towards the residence of Insha in a vehicle. The distance to the central city of Kolan was not great. Within less than an hour's drive, he arrived at a rather unremarkable inn. Who would expect that such a shabby establishment could serve as the base for a mysterious organization like Insha? Upon entering the inn, Qin Lang immediately sensed an undeniable aura of malice. Looking up, he noticed the curtains on the 5th floor fluttering slightly. The windows were tightly shut. How could it possibly be the wind? Someone had definitely been standing there, observing him. As for who it was, he was all too familiar with this murderous intent. Since it was an old acquaintance, why not pay a visit? You may return, Qin Lang instructed the driver. I will contact you if needed. He then made his way to the 5th floor. At the door of a room on that floor, he gently rapped on the door. Knock, knock. No response. Knock, knock. Still no answer. Qin Lang placed his hand on the doorknob, gently twisting it. To his surprise, the door opened slightly. Was it not locked? Or was it intentional? Qin Lang smiled, a wicked glint in his eye, and pushed the door open. Suddenly, a flash of cold light shot towards his heart with incredible speed, almost appearing as a mere phantom. Time seemed to freeze as Qin Lang widened his eyes, witnessing the reincarnation before him. The reincarnation, wielding a long sword, halted the blade less than a centimeter from Qin Lang's heart, poised to pierce the skin with the slightest movement. Why do you not evade? The reincarnation asked in astonishment, the sword still unwavering. Qin Lang tilted his head back. We seem to have a misunderstanding. If you wish to kill me, then do so. If it alleviates your grievances, I bear no resentment. Before coming here, he had sensed that the reincarnation's murderous intent had diminished considerably, no longer as sharp as before. A gamble? No, no, no. It is inconceivable for him to wager his very life on the resolve of reincarnation. Such sentiments are merely superficial. The armed color of hockey has long since entwined around his heart, and no matter how swift the reincarnation, it cannot surpass his reflexes. Not to mention whether the sword of reincarnation can pierce through the armed color of hockey. Even if it could, he would still be able to respond in an instant. Should the tip of the sword break his skin, reincarnation would meet its demise in the next heartbeat. It appears that reincarnation has spared Qin Lang, but in truth, it is Qin Lang who has chosen not to eliminate reincarnation. Though his thoughts remain unspoken, the divine art of team mastery silently unfolds. On the surface, Qin Lang wears an expression of deep remorse, as if he were apologizing for a grave misdeed. I understand your anger, Yet I never anticipated that the woman I encountered that fateful night would be you. We have no past grievances. My only transgression was against Chen Fan. To be candid, I still harbor disdain toward Chen Fan, but I have never held any resentment toward you. Indeed, I believe that a person like Chen Fan does not deserve your unwavering protection. How could one so consumed by vengeance deserve your shelter? Reincarnation gritted its teeth, as if enduring immense torment. The sword trembled in its grasp. You claim we share no animosity. Are you not aware of your own deeds? I wish to pierce your heart at this very moment, to extract your heart, and see if it is truly black. Qin Lang furrowed his brow, his expression earnest. That night, I fell victim to a treacherous poison, administered by Ning Qianqian. If you doubt me, inquire for yourself. Should there be even a hint of falsehood in my words, you may not only stab me, but leave me in 1,000 wounds without a word of complaint. Moreover, at that time, you had disguised yourself as the blood-colored mandala. I had no knowledge it was you. In his mind, a tempest of thoughts swirled, seeking to articulate reasons that might quell reincarnation's wrath without rendering it indefensible. The murderous intent of reincarnation waned, as his subtle tactics began to take effect. What he needed now was to seize the opportunity to guide reincarnation down a more amicable path. However, before he could utter another word, reincarnation, brow furrowed, posed a question. Was it you who instructed the blood-colored mandala not to kill me? When did this occur? What did happen? Qin Lang felt a surge of emotions. He had yet to formulate a response, yet reincarnation had interjected, seemingly answering for him. Yes, I did mention it. In truth, Qin Lang had never spoken such words to the blood-colored mandala. He had even urged her to take lethal action when the situation appeared dire. Nonetheless, this did not impede his rapid response, almost instinctively. At that moment, a voice echoed from the stairwell, Chen Fan. Although reincarnation was not afraid of Chen Fan, the words of others can be fearsome, especially given Chen Fan's acerbic tongue. Merely imagining the words Chen Fan would utter upon witnessing this scene made her wish to silence his mouth, to avoid becoming the subject of gossip. She expressionlessly grasped Qin Lang and ushered him into the bathroom, concerned that he might cause a disturbance within. Thus, she followed him inside. A few minutes later, after wandering around the room, Chen Fan was about to leave when he heard an eerie sound emanating from the bathroom, reminiscent of rainwater pattering against the ground, as if a torrential downpour was occurring. Fourth senior sister, are you in the bathroom? Chen Fan inquired cautiously. Luan Hui was desperately splashing the water in the bathtub, producing subtly different sounds. What business is it of yours? Get out. These words brewed in Luan Hui's heart for mere seconds before being dismissed. She gritted her teeth, wishing she could stab the man behind her, Qin Lang, with a sword. Ultimately, all her anger coalesced into a single word that surged toward the door where Chen Fan stood. Get out. Fourth senior sister. I do not comprehend how I have offended you, but this place is genuinely perilous. It is unwise to linger. Chen Fan did not leave. Instead, standing a short distance from the bathroom door, an expression of melancholy etched on his face. Transformed into a solitary warrior, he had spent sleepless nights. Having just tended to his wounds, he rushed to the residence of fourth senior sister, intent on escorting her away from this dangerous locale. It was no longer safe here. Both Luo Qingyu and Ning Qianqian had already allied themselves with that scoundrel, Qin Lang. Even second senior sister might have succumbed to his charms. In Qin Lang's eyes, Chen Fan was nothing but a thorn in his side, and despite his resentment, he understood that now was not the opportune moment for a direct confrontation. He needed to bide his time, gathering strength for a decisive strike against the enemy. What troubled him most was fourth senior sister. She had antagonized Qin Lang on his behalf. Regardless of his trepidation toward Qin Lang, he could not allow her to remain in such a perilous situation. He had to ensure her departure alongside him. In the bathroom, Luan Hui's cerebral cortex tingled. She could hardly believe she was being treated in such a manner. Gazing into the mirror on the wall, she saw her disheveled appearance, her mind in disarray. The younger disciple stood at the door, and if she dared to make the slightest sound, it would surely draw his attention, thereby exposing her clandestine meetings with Qin Lang. The mere thought of the younger disciple witnessing such a scene filled her with a shame so profound she might wish for her own demise. This was not a matter of any lingering attachment to Chen Fan. Rather, Luan Hui's heart harbored an unwaveringly proud spirit, presenting a cold facade to the world. It was as if she regarded everything with indifference, resolutely refusing to engage in actions that contradicted her own soul. All the blame lay with Qin Lang. This wretched scoundrel had repeatedly shattered her pride, dismantling her solitary spirit and convictions. Damn that man. May he suffer. In that moment of fury, Luan Hui could not restrain herself. She swung her hand toward Qin Lang's neck, intending to halt his impudent behavior. However, before her fingers could grasp his throat, he seized her wrist firmly, his grip unyielding. Qin Lang held tightly onto the delicate fingers of the reincarnation, gently placing her soft palm against his cheek. Leaning closer, he whispered softly into her ear, "I apologize for my previous harshness. It was not a true reflection of my feelings. I genuinely did not realize it was you, masquerading as the Crimson Mandala. In truth, from the very first encounter with Chun Fan and yourself, I harbored resentment towards him, perhaps even jealousy. Why should he, a man blinded by hatred, be graced with your quiet protection and support as a devoted fourth senior sister? What merit does he possess to earn such admiration from someone as exquisite as you? My envy towards him was profound, yet I held no grudge against you. Even when Chun Fan took the life of my dear brother Haozi, my wrath was directed solely at him. I never contemplated harming you. You are innocent, unlike Chun Fan. You remain calm, simply wishing to care for him." The reincarnation trembled in disbelief, instinctively retracting her neck as she listened to Qin Lang's gentle murmurs. Indeed, it became clear that from their very first meeting, he had developed feelings for her, even leading him to resent his own junior disciple. There was a significant possibility that Qin Lang's animosity towards Chun Fan was influenced by her presence. Observing the reincarnation lost in thought, her resistance began to wane, prompting Qin Lang to articulate all his feelings, eager to advance, wishing to offer everything he had. "I once believed that our paths would never cross again. I understood that someone like you, once committed, would remain loyal to the end. Yet who could have foreseen that you would impersonate the Crimson Mandala to assassinate me for Chun Fan? This has led to such a dramatic turn of events. Previously, I could dismiss this feeling, even refrain from confronting Chun Fan for your sake. But now, the die is cast, even if it requires force. I will reclaim you from Chun Fan's side. From this moment forth, you, reincarnation, shall be my Qin Lang's woman, severed from any ties with Chun Fan. I am quite possessive, to the extent that even if your heart resists, I will demonstrate through my actions that you belong to me." Qin Lang's determination was unwavering. He placed the reincarnation's hand against his lips, bestowing a gentle kiss upon it, whispering, "Do you understand?" The reincarnation's mind was a chaotic tangle, muddled and disordered. She could hardly discern her own thoughts. Was it anger, embarrassment, or perhaps a flicker of joy or relief? She numbly raised her head to gaze at her slightly flushed cheeks in the mirror, her pale neck taut, gritting her teeth. "Release me and let us leave this place. We can discuss everything later." Chun Fan stands just outside. If this scene is witnessed by him, I would have no face to return to the sect. At this critical moment, are your concerns solely for Chun Fan? Qin Lang halted his movements, his gaze fixed seriously upon the reincarnation's beautiful eyes reflected in the mirror, his brow furrowing with increasing intensity. He retreated slowly, almost reluctantly, as if unable to let go. "I am a person of little generosity, yet I find myself even more repulsed by the notion of my woman harboring the shadows of other men in her heart. If you still care for Chun Fan, then let us pretend that fateful night never transpired. The grievances with Chun Fan shall be my compensation to you, and from henceforth I shall cease to trouble him. Should you wish to soar together with him, I shall grant you that freedom." The retreat is genuine. Even though Qin Lang understands that there will no longer be any entanglement with Chun Fan, he feels compelled to act this way, not to affirm his place in the heart of Luan Hui, but to gradually erode her proud spirit. Otherwise, given Luan Hui's disposition, she may encounter numerous troubles in the future. If Luan Hui continues to embody her aloofness and coldness, how could she ever coexist peacefully with other women? A mere disagreement could lead to her erasing them entirely. Such a woman is akin to a ticking time bomb. From their first encounter until now, Qin Lang has consistently taken the initiative, guiding Luan Hui step by step into the trap she has set, requiring her merely to passively acquiesce without any self-expression. However, that must change now. It is time for Luan Hui to make her own choice, to avoid the young apprentice or to accept the reality of the liberation she has envisioned in her heart. Qin Lang gazed at Luan Hui in the mirror, his expression growing increasingly unfamiliar and detached as he continued to withdraw. Outside the bathroom, Chun Fan persisted in his confession. "Fourth senior sister, you occupy my heart. I have always cherished you. In the past, I held fantasies about the first senior sister, but since she chose Qin Lang, I have severed all ties with her, establishing a clear boundary. Fourth senior sister, come with me. Let us leave this place. Get out." Where I go is none of your concern. I refuse to leave. I will go nowhere. Luan Hui retorted angrily, stepping back a distance, making her choice. She was unwilling to part with Qin Lang. Chapter 362. Luan Hui and Chun Fan. A definitive divergence. Fourth senior sister, what is happening? Has something transpired? Why do you seem like a different person? What have I done to provoke such rejection from you? You were never like this before. Chun Fan's heart was shattered. He never anticipated that his heartfelt confession would be met with such a simple dismissal. It is important to note that this is the residence of the fourth senior sister. There is no one else here. Even if she feels shy or embarrassed, he is the only one present. What is there to fear?